Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to round 4 of the British GT Esports Cup 2024. My name is Luke Crane. I've been here for the majority of the championship, I'd say. I'm joined by the dulcet tones of that northern British Isles commentator, John Munro. How you doing, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, true northerner, north of the border, and always happy to be here at Spa-Francorchamps in a virtual setting or a real setting. But it's going to be a superb race today. 2 hours of action, lots and lots of close battles throughout the season, and I'm sure we're going to see it continue.
Certainly will. You're right, north as they come. Not just a northerner, but northern of the border. Crazy. Spa, by the way, just had his lights turned off. So we are at Spa today. We've got ourselves a 2-hour-long race, which is going to be nice and fun. But let's talk about the season and how the championship is indeed going to work, or how it has been working. 6 rounds, 8 races. We've got GT3 only. We've got 2 classes. We've got a pro class and an AM class. And it's mixed race formats, today being a 2-hour race. Live stewarding with custom BOP as well. That's to keep it nice and indeed fair, which is always nice. As you can see in the background, we've got a beautiful shot there of Spa, but we've been to many different tracks, and we were going to go to different tracks as well after this week. We headed to Alton Park on February the 3rd. We had 2 races there. Then we went to Silverstone on February the 10th. Then we were at Donington last time out, and this time we are at Spa-Francorchamps. As you can see, it's March the 2nd. Then we're going to head to Snetterton for 2 times 1-hour races. I say we, I'm not, this is my last race today, so everyone get the violins out. And then we have got March the 16th, Brands Hatch. So that is your calendar. So still plenty of action to go. And John, we are pretty much bang on the halfway point of the championship.
Yeah, it's always the crucial point. Now the championship contenders have made themselves known. Apex 1 and Brabham Esports have to be the main ones. But looking here at the Drivers' Championship, as you can see, it's Chris Warner for Apex 1, who currently leads the way on 449 points, ahead of Luciano Whitvet on 413. And then we have Elvin Smith 3rd for Brabham, and Ryan Woodrow 4th for World of Racing. And those 3 teams, as to be said, World of Racing, Brabham Esports and Apex 1, have been taking up the majority of the positions at the front of the field, as we see the rest of our runners and riders. But yeah, it's been close. All of the wins overall have been taken by just those 2 teams, Apex 1 and Brabham. But Brabham have had so many issues this season, Luke, with disconnects and incidents, that they've not really racked up the points that their paces deserved. And, you know, we could be looking at a runaway championship, but we're not.
No, we are certainly not. And, you know, I think it's testament to Machkowski and Chris Warner, who've managed to just keep themselves in a good position to take advantage of those mistakes. Of course, you don't want drivers to be having disconnections or anything like that, because it does affect where they are. But for everyone else, it's just make sure that you're there to take full advantage. There is the championship standings. Then we've got Christoph Machkowski for Apex 1 on 467 points. Then got Martin Klassen, World of Racing, 62 on 422 points. Wilf Paduano, as it cycles through so real quickly there. Well, there you go. There's people with points, guys. Hopefully that was nice and slow enough for you to all figure it out at home. But yes, it is Machkowski that is in the lead of the championship, who is an AM. The difference between pro and AMs in this championship is not as big as you may think, considering we have a few AMs right up the sharp end of the championship order.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just for anyone who's new to the series, it's essentially 2 different championships running on one grid. So you will have a race winner in AM and a race winner in Pro, which is why you've just seen 2 sets of driver standings. So just because Machkowski has the most points doesn't mean that he would be winning the championship if everyone was in the same class, if that makes sense. He's just been scoring the most points in his class. And actually, he's won 3 out of the 4 races we've had so far this season. Kieran Prendergast, the only other AM to have won a race. So it's been exciting in both classes, though, Luke. We've had, you know, contenders from the top of the pros and contenders from the top of the AMs always battling. And actually, the pros and the AMs are very much mixed together, because as you were saying, it's not the traditional type of pro-AM you would expect in terms of they're just grouped in their experience. It's more to do with a numbering system and their experience within Simracing.GP. So you do get a bit of a mixture in there, which is good to see. I do think we're going to see a lot of the same names at the top again, though.
Yeah, and also, you know, the prizes are actually awarded to them as a team, opposed to individual drivers. So Apex 1 currently lead the championship. They've got 916 points. We've got World of Racing 62. They're on 835. So the gap between the top 2 is quite substantial. It's actually 85 points between the 2 of them. So yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. I think we're about to head to the final part of qualifying here to check out exactly what's going on. Yes, I say final part. We've got a fair chunk of change actually to deal with here. So 8 minutes, 50 odd seconds to go. All of the AMs have managed to put their lap times in, and we're about to see, I believe, the final laps then of the AMs, and the start of the pros.
Absolutely. So we're following Christoph Machkowski, of course, our AM Championship leader in the Aston Martin, which has been probably the best car so far this season, has to be said. But he's just finishing his final lap there, I believe, and goes 3rd place in the standings. So as you can see on the left there on the tower, you've got 2 different colours. You've got the red boxes, which basically signifies the AM class, and then you've got the white boxes, which signifies the pros. So the AMs have done their running. Now it's time for the pros. They've only got 10 minutes to get out there and set some lap times. So we're going to see these names in particular, I would say, Elvin Smith, Chris Warner, they're going to basically be slotting their way into the existing field at the top. Lots of traffic, though, you can see there, Luke. It's going to be tricky for them to get some clean running, especially on the way through Eau Rouge and Radion. You pretty much need some clean air to get through there, so it's going to get spicy.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a nice little onboard here for a lap. Onboard with Elvin Smith. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have a little look here. So we'll talk you through a lap of Spa-Francorchamps as we come through the final chicane, the bus stop chicane.
Oh, he's gone to pits.
Opening up the final corner. Opening up the final corner as best you possibly can. That's the esports line, as we like to call it. And we're about to go across the start-finish line as we head up towards turn number 1, which is La Source. Again, you're just braking around about the 75-metre board there. And then you indeed hit the inside curbing, running out nice and wide as possible. And now this is one of the trickier parts of the course, and you need to maintain as much speed as possible because it does end up being the fastest part of the course. We come then up through Radion, up to over Eau Rouge, grabbing a load of curb on the entry and indeed exit very close there. So that lap not going to count, but no, perfectly good as we head along then the Kemmel Straight. Maximum speed being maintained then by Elvin Smith, who's probably been the standout driver, although not leading the championship, has probably been the standout driver so far. We're through Les Combes, the entry towards Les Combes, again grabbing a load of curb on entry through the middle. You've got to try and get the car as far left as early as possible for the exit of Les Combes. As we head now down towards Bruxelles, you can see the sun is just coming up, and you see there just on the barriers the sun showing its reflection. Now through the downhill exit, heading towards No Name. It's got a different name now, but for me it'll always be known as No Name. Again, grabbing a bit of curb on the exit. I say a bit of curb, all curb and a bit of AstroTurf. Now down towards Podium, which is a very tricky corner indeed. You've got to use the entry curb, as much as you dare realistically. There's a bit of a slip there on the exit in through the middle of Podium. And again, you don't want to use the curb really on the exit of that corner because it is so raised it will completely lift your car off. Now we come through the S's. And again, just got to try and keep the momentum through the corner, try and keep it as close to the apexes as possible. If you mess up one part of that complex of corners, you mess all of that part of the corner. Now we come through what is very similar to the Lesmos at Monza, if you're very, if you know Monza, on the exit now down towards the run to Blanchimont. A little bit of slipstream here to help out as well, which should be helpful. The last thing you want is slipstream or some dirty air in the middle of corners, but this is the perfect position to have a little bit of toe. Through Blanchimont then, absolutely flat out there. Hold on for dear life, even close your eyes, and just hope the car grips up. And now we head down towards that final chicane. Once again, we will not be taking that wide exit line through here this time around. And I say we are, because the lap wasn't perfect for Elvin. So Elvin's going to look to improve there. But that is a lap of Spa-Francorchamps. John, one of the most famed, maybe my favourite circuit to race around.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with that. It's certainly one of my favourites as well. It's just absolutely epic, and it's got a lovely mix of being a historic venue, but also just providing an amazing circuit for racing. It's just very grand and spectacular, so it's fantastic. Good decision there by Elvin. I was thinking that. He made a mistake on the lap very clearly through Pouillon. It wasn't a great one, and he was catching another car, and as a driver, in a short qualifying session, you've got to decide, do I want to commit to another lap, therefore I'm going to be in traffic throughout from the start, or do I just bail out on the one that's already bad, and obviously I still need to then get my banker in. But that's what Elvin went for. We know how consistent and quick he's going to be, so do expect Elvin to get a clean lap in later on. But we're now looking at the man who's pole for the pros, which is our championship leader, of course, Chris Warner. But it was Will Paduano, by the way, a 2:15.9. That is an incredible lap time around Spa in the Mercedes that's taken the AM pole. It'd be interesting to see if Warner or Smith can better that later in this session.
So Will's been pretty quick this season, but you wouldn't say he was, pole time quick so far. But Spa's one of those circuits that if you get into a rhythm, if you hook it up in qualifying, then we will see some surprises. It's quite a long lap as well. But yeah, fair play to Will. That's a really good time. 1.5 tenths clear then of Warner. It looks like Steve has planted some viewers in the chat, because apparently he's saying well done to Steve and the team on the production. So yeah, appreciate that. Probably Steve's mum watching at home. So fair play. Yeah, welcome to everybody watching at home. Hopefully you're having a good time. Make sure you go and get yourself some drinks and snacks. We've got a 2-hour race coming up for you around one of the best circuits for racing, one of the best circuits to watch as well. So yeah, get yourself over. There might be a chance of some weather as well. We are at Spa after all.
There's actually been a change in the driver lineup for this team we're looking at right now, World of Racing. Ryan Woodrow remains, but Cody Cosford is sitting this one out, and it's Sergi Sebastian that's come in to replace him. So we'll see how he gets on. He's qualified at the moment 5th in the AM, so a good first effort from Sergi. But here comes Ryan Woodrow then, in towards Blanchimont in the Mercedes. It's been a Mercedes and Aston Martin dominated season so far. Those two manufacturers have been all over the top spots, and around here the Aston Martin's got a very favourable BOP as well, so we should expect to see something similar, but it's Mercedes at the moment on top, and let's see what Ryan can do then. He's already got one lap under his belt, a 2:17.0, but what's he going to do in this one? Coming up to the line, can he break into the 2:16s? He does actually go quicker, but not quite enough to improve a position there, Luke. So he stays 9th overall for the moment, but he's within a second of our pole sitter. But what about Luciano Whitvet? Another one of the World of Racing cars going to cross the line, and he goes from 7th up to 3rd, only 3/10 off Paduano on pole. That's 2nd place in the pros, so a nice lap there from Whitvet, and he should hopefully get 1 or maybe even 2 laps in if the tyres will allow.
Yeah, depending on fuel, they should be able to get 2 more lap times in. It'll be interesting to see where Elvin Smith is. He should be just about finishing a lap time. Actually, he was the one who aborted earlier on. There is again Luciano Whitver coming through Radio Nano Rouge. Very nicely done there. It looks beautifully done actually. But there is Elvin Smith. So again, the next lap wasn't great. So maybe got held up. And yeah, if you don't get a banker time in early, you put yourself under a bit of pressure you don't necessarily need. But Elvin Smith, who has been, again, raw pace-wise, the quickest driver in this championship. Again, there's been a few, say, incidents with his tech at home that have cost him the chance of winning, the championship. But right now, this lap is not going to count as well. I'm being told in my ear that this has been validated. It's a dirty lap. But realistically, it's going to come down to a one-shot qualifying here for Elvin. And for us neutrals at home, it's not the worst thing in the world watching Elvin Smith charge through from the back, because I know he will be doing that. But ultimately, for him, it is not good so far.
Well, I'm surprised he's still so committed to the lap. You'd think at this point he would be thinking, right, let's save the tyres, because I've already done 3 full laps. It will make a difference on ACC. It does take a lap for the tyres to come up, but once you get going, you get that little bit of an edgy performance early doors. So I'm surprised Elvin's pushing so hard on this lap. I would have thought he would slow down a little and then go for one final flyer.
Yeah, but there's a car behind him, and the last thing you want to do is put it to chance that, having someone in front of you make a mistake. So I think having a clear track right now, guaranteeing that, makes much more sense than having someone go ahead of him, and then the chance of them aborting that lap and maybe affecting how he gets on. I think it makes more sense for him to keep it in his own hands.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense from Elvin. Just if you know you've got clean track, you're going to stick with it. But let's see what Elvin can do then. I mean, he's 2.5 seconds off right now. We know he'll go quicker with just an average lap. We know he has the potential to be right up there at the sharp end. He doesn't have to worry too much. His big rivals, I mean, if you're looking at overall victories, his rivals a lot of the time have actually been AMS in Maszkowski and his teammate Prendergast, but they're down in 5th and 6th, so it's not like they're right at the top. It's Warner who he needs to worry about, who is a bit further up. But let's see then, as Elvin heads down towards La Source for what will be the last time in this qualifying session. Seems to have hit his apex okay from what we can tell there, using the curb on the exit. That stunning Brabham Esports livery on the Aston Martin always looks fantastic, especially at 6:30 in the morning in the countryside at Spa. It's just absolutely awesome. As we head fully committed onto the curb, through Eau Rouge, over Radion. Nice amount of corner cutting there as well. Spa's fairly lenient at certain corners on ACC. You can get away with just pushing the edges of the white lines, but it's a balancing act, isn't it? Look, all the way around the track, you've got to use as much as you can get away with, but if you just get it wrong slightly, like we saw Elvin do earlier, it's going to punish you big time.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It's high risk, high reward, and right now he kind of has to try and go for that high reward. It's as simple as that, because if he doesn't, that's again very, very close. We've not heard in our ear yet that it's been validated, so it looks like he's still good. But ultimately, as far as he goes, the car behind him, which I believe is that Luciano Whitver, maybe Ryan Woodrow. So yeah, they're going to be going just as quick, if not quicker, because of that toe. So he's going to be dragging them along. But as it stands, Elvin is still green, still able to try and get a faster lap time in here, but the pressure very much ramped up.
Absolutely, yeah. He's got a long way to go still on this lap. Beautiful, fast and flowing corners coming up through the S's, hard on the brakes, dips the nose in on the Aston Martin, but carries good speed. And yeah, this is beautiful for the driver behind. I'm still not quite sure who that is, but getting all of the slipstream, all of the run. Obviously the dirty air is going to make a little bit of difference, but not as much as the slipstream is going to gain you in these GT3 cars. It's Sudakar, who's currently 10th at the moment, is following Elvin. So Sudakar could jump up here if both of these laps are decent, but we see Elvin continuing to push on, heading now towards Blanchimont. Let's see what he's going to do into the bus stop. All the pressure on that last braking zone, of course. It's such a tricky one. High speed, you've got to get the right point, and every single lap the track changes slightly, the lighting changes slightly, so it's a tricky one to get right. But these guys at the highest level always somehow seem to manage it. You see there Elvin getting the nose in early, using all of the curb on the right, beautiful and smooth. A little bit late on the left, slightly missed the apex. Lots of curb using the exit, so not perfect, but decent. He's going to come across the line, and it's going to be P3 for Elvin Smith. 2/10 off pole position, but he got the banker in. He's right behind his championship rival, and it looks like Sudakar didn't improve somehow.
No, looks like he did not improve. You're right. Elvin Smith, though, has again produced some magic there at the end, and if he didn't, well, he's going to be right down the order. And I'd be pretty worried if I was everyone else right now, because if he's managing to go P3 with a lap that didn't look particularly great, I'm not going to lie, he's going to be very dangerous in this race.
Yeah, I think we've seen that from Elvin all season. As you said earlier, he has been the standout performer. If it wasn't for the DNF at Silverstone, he was leading comfortably in that race, by the way, and suffered from a disconnect. If that hadn't happened, we'd probably be seeing Elvin right at the top of the standings. So ever since that moment, he's had to basically go out there and win every race, and he's been doing his best to do so, and he's been dominant. But the problem is Warner's just too good behind him, managing to pick up those second places in the pro class. Obviously, though, there's still 4 races this season to go, so there's still time for a DNF for Warner, for example, and that could bring Elvin right back in there. So for him, unlike I would say his teammate, the championship is very much still alive.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is still on. I said this last time out. Ewan was a bit like, I'm not sure that it's possible. And then we kind of went through how many races there are actually still to go, and we kind of both agreed that actually, yeah, if he does perform at the level he has been performing, then there's every reason to suggest that, yeah, we do see a championship hunt, until the end. We've got 3 minutes, 30 seconds left then. They are all indeed gridded up. They've got a full lap that they will take on before we do indeed then start this race. Remember, the finish line for this race will be the other side of the track on the right-hand side, but the start of this race will be this start line here, just below Radion and Eau Rouge. But let's have a look then at your grid. So we've got on the left-hand side there, pole position, Paduano will be on a ramped up there, Warner. So Warner will start in second position. We then have Elvin Smith, who managed to get himself into that top 3 at the death in qualifying. We have then Luciano Whitver joining him on the second row. Klaassen, who was very much involved at Alton Park earlier in the season, right at the sharp end, maybe got a bit too involved. He starts in 5th position. Then Matchkowski, who's got the most points out of everybody, not only in the AM class, but in the pros as well. He is in 6th position. Then we've got Prendergast, who indeed done very well at Alton Park, got himself a race victory there. He starts in 7th position. We've then got Van Veen in 8th spot. We've then got Sebastian, who's in 9th position there on the left-hand side of the screen in that number 14. And then we have one of the 17 World of Racing cars there in 10th spot of Sudakar. Ryan Woodrow, the next World of Racing car in 11th spot, with Trundley in that McLaren in 12th position. And we've got Erdmann starting in 13th position. We've got Paulik then in 14th. Seiko is in 15th position there on the left-hand side. Again, another ramped-up car. De Lange in 16th position. Grant on the left-hand side of your screen there in 8:02. We've then got Holland, who is in 18th position. Manders in 19th. We've then got Farrell on the right-hand side in 20th. Petrosian is in 21st. With then Tomlinson starting in 22nd spot. We then have Davies in 23rd. And hopefully we get the timing thing popped down a little bit there. Well, we've got 4 more cars that are starting a bit further back, needing the names, but it's all good. Life is good.
It's a very pretty looking grid, isn't it? Lots of colour on there. A bit too many black and red cars because we've got about half the grid taken up by World of Racing. Even the Panda livery in front of the 2 World of Racing cars is also a World of Racing car, for your information. But yeah, we'll definitely see a very colourful grid head full chat very soon towards Eau Rouge. One thing of note as well, it's obviously 1 mandatory pit stop for these guys in this 2-hour race. They have to make it towards the middle of the race. There's only a 10-minute window, so there's not a huge amount of flexibility in strategy. We saw something similar last time at Donington, but one thing that's worth noting is the pit lane is the full pit lane, so you've got to go in, as we were seeing, by the new start-finish straight essentially, and then drive all the way around at slow speed down the hill of the other side, and then coming out, as you can see now on your screen at the top there, at the exit of Radion. So basically what I'm trying to say is don't get a drive-through penalty for track limits, because you're going to lose around about a minute, and in a field like this, that's going to put you way back.
Yeah, it's the endurance pit lane they'll be using, so it's basically if you get a drive-through, by the time you finish your drive-through, the race will be over. It's that long. On the right-hand side here, you can see the pit stalls. That's effectively when we have racing like or DTM, maybe Formula 1, all of the support classes end up with the garages on the on this part of the circuit, and then on the right-hand side, where we have the start, the finish line, it will be. That's where like the main series have their garages. They're a little bit bigger on that side of the grid. But we're about to go here. 10 seconds left to go before we go around for one full formation lap. Then it's a 2-hour-long race. I wonder if we're going to get some weather today. That would be pretty exciting for me. We haven't actually, I don't think we've seen any weather since the first round, where it was just ridiculous. It was like a swimming pool. I think it's been dry since.
You're right, yeah. Alton was manic from the get-go, which always adds a little bit of strategy. I do love a bit of rain in sim racing. It keeps it nice and spicy. But we've had lots of dry weather since, even though we've been in the UK, which is surprising, but it's been okay. Spa is obviously famous for its sudden downpours, and it's no different really on ACC. We could still see some of that, and yeah, always keeps it nice and spicy. The Mercedes and the Aston are both pretty decent cars in the wet weather, so it shouldn't affect the running order too much in terms of car preference, but we'll definitely see some drivers come on stronger if it does get wet. I'm not sure if we've got a forecast or anything, so well, that's quite exciting. We'll find out later on, but it is going to be this man, Wilf Paduano, taking his first pole, I believe, of the season for SGSS Racing. 4 different teams as well in the top 4 in qualifying, and interestingly, 3 AMs, no sorry, I'm talking nonsense, it's an AM on pole, and then 3 pros just in behind.
Yeah, but in your top 10, we've got 5 of each, so it's kind of an even match there. It's quite nice to see them all mixing it like that. Yeah, talking of weather, I always believed it's a bit of a myth where it's like, oh, it could just rain out of nowhere and then be sunny again. I'm from the UK, so if there's ever a country that does rain properly, it's where I live. But I've worked at Spa a couple of times, and every single time I've been there, it's just suddenly out of nowhere, it's absolutely hammering it down. I've seen snow in June. It's ridiculous, this place. So, yeah, it can change on a dime. By the looks of things, though, it looks pretty good. But, yeah, who knows? Who knows? Could be very exciting indeed.
I can back you up on that one, because I've done some endurance racing over at Spa, and I remember getting out the car once, and it was bone dry around the whole circuit, and my teammate got in the car, and 2 laps later the race was red flagged, and everything was completely drenched. There was not a single bit of surface available that had anything other than puddles. It was absolutely monumental, and it came out of nowhere on a perfectly sunny day. Thankfully, I got my stint in before the red flag, and my teammate didn't, so that was fine. But yeah, you're right, it can change instantly. We see on ACC as well that there's a huge amount of pressure when it comes to the rain in terms of, well, actually, interestingly enough, pressure. You've got to pick the right tyre pressure when you put on those wets. You've also got to decide when is the right moment. It's going to come down to managing the temperature of those tyres, trying to stay off the line. There's so many different aspects that really bring out the best in these pro drivers that we will see if it does rain. And we're talking a lot about rain, but I mean, it could also be completely dry, and that's fine, because Spa is also an exciting circuit in the dry. We see lots of overtaking at Spa as well. It always gets interesting with back markers, but this circuit's got a beautiful flow to it. So if you can get in the rhythm of things and start making your moves at the right point in the circuit, you can gain a heck of a lot of time around here. So I think traffic, as it has been all season, is going to be another key to this race.
Yeah, 100%. As much as we have mentioned rain, it more than likely will stay dry for the entirety of this race, but there will be drivers out there who've gone for a bit of a conservative setup, expecting there to be the chance, at least there being a chance of rain. If someone's gone out there with a full dry setup, they're going to be in a great spot if it does stay dry the whole time. But I would imagine there'll be a few cars on this grid that would have gone for a bit more of a hybrid, just knowing the nature of this track. Right, down towards Blanchimont we go. Come on, John, give me a prediction.
Oh, right. I'm actually going to go... the obvious one's Elvin Smith, isn't it? So we can't really go for that. I'm going to say something's going to happen. There's going to be a bit of drama between Warner and Smith, and it's going to be Luciano Wittwit who's going to come through for his first victory of the season. That's where we're going. Okay,
I think Krzysztof Machkowski is going to extend his championship lead. I think he's going to come from 6th to win at this circuit. I think there's going to be a lot of side-by-side action, which invariably is going to mean some incidents. Yeah, that is what I am going for. We've got some fans in the chat there. We've got Abby, who's supporting Sam in 802, Nick in the number 3, and Max in the 17. And we've got Sturm, who's always here supporting SGSS. Welcome to the stream, guys. Hopefully you enjoy this. We've only got a couple of corners before we get going. So, just to let everybody know here, we do have a pit window that will happen in the middle of the race. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, there are orange boxes with the number 1. Once they've served their pit stop, that will go green. There'll be no number in it. That means that they are done and dusted, so keep an eye on that. We've got the numbers next to their name as well, which means if they're red, that means that they are an AM driver. If they are white, that means they are one of the pro drivers. So there's 2 races happening at the same time. Finishing P1 in this race It's all about in your class. You can finish 7th, but if you are the lead car of your class, you are the winner of your race. Right, across the start-finish line, well, that will be the finish line later on. We are now heading towards the start line, which is just on the exit of La Source. 2 hours of action coming your way here for round 4 of the British Esports or British GT Esports Cup 2024. It will be Wilf Paduano that will take us away with Chris Warner in 2nd position. We're about to wait for Panky to tell us that we're about to go green light racing. Heading down towards that line, they are in indeed 2x2 formation. Under the bridge they will go. Drive-through penalty already for Erdman. That's not ideal, but Paduano will take us away down towards Eau Rouge and through Radion. And well, you can see that Elvin Smith is already side by side, then battling for 3rd position. But if you get a lovely pan shot of everybody gets through there pretty nicely. And right now, Luciano Whitver is looking to get up into P3. Can he get a bit of help, though, from his teammate Klaassen just in behind him? The 2 World of Racing cars actually decide to split. Elvin Smith, I think, is just about going to hold on to turn P3 in towards turn number 3 as the front 2, well, they get into it. Wilf Paduano is going to drop down to 3rd, and I think Chris Warner might be in the lead of this race. He is.
Yeah, Warner went all the way around the outside, down the Kemmel straight, and actually got the move done fairly early, but they obviously went into the next corner side by side, and that really didn't help Wilf Paduano, who drops to 3rd, but it's Chris Warner out in front. Nice and clean start from the whole field. Obviously, SGSS Racing, a bit of a mixed bag there, because you've got Paduano up in 3rd, but his teammate Erdman with the first drive-through penalty, so we'll see what happens there. Elvin Smith will be delighted with this, though. He's already right on the back of his championship rival. He's going to need to beat Chris Warner here, so in some ways the pressure's on Warner to keep it clean and make sure he doesn't have any problems. Elvin's just got to go for it.
Yeah, Elvin will have to finish ahead. Warner right now, if he can keep him behind, that's great. I don't think he's going to defend too hard, realistically, if Elvin tries to send it. We already saw Elvin try and actually send it through Bruxelles, and ultimately Warner went over and defended it a little bit late. But I think if that keeps happening, Warner will kind of just let Elvin go. But as it stands, it's a really good start. They've both got ahead of Paduano, as we see some battling a little bit further back here. This is for P4, a couple of Mercedes. Actually, where's one of the World of... Oh, this is a bit further back, actually. Sorry, it's massively further back in the grid order. But already seeing battling happening here. That's Van Veen and Erdman then battling for that position. Erdman, who, of course, had that drive-through penalty, looking to try and make some mischief before they indeed come through the longest pit lane of all time.
Yeah, Van Veen in the striking purple car there, hoping not to strike as many cars as he did at Donington. But it's Chris Warner who leads coming across the finish line for the first lap, so he'll be happy enough with that. 3/10 ahead of Elvin Smith, with Paduano 3rd, Luciano Whitvet 4th, and then we're looking back further in the pack here. We've got Seiko doing a little bit of defending from Pollock, who came into the championship a little late, but has been doing really well so far. But it's Seiko who holds the inside line, and that's actually going to allow a bit of a run for De Lange, heading now down towards Eau Rouge. This is always going to be spicy. I love it when you see cars go 2 or maybe even 3 wide, heading into probably the most famous corner in motorsport. Let's see how they all get through. It's Seiko who manages to hold on, full commitment through there. Pollock slots in behind, takes a little bit of curb on the exit. De Lange has to settle down to 3rd, but of course it's not over, because you've got this massive slipstream up the Kemmel Straight, incredibly steep run up this hill, and it's such a long one, it gives it plenty of time to carry that momentum through. But heading into the chicane, looks like it's all status quo at the moment, as we see one of the cars going off in the background. Not quite sure which one that was. That might have been De Lange, actually, not quite sure.
No, it wasn't. It was, I think, Law. I think Law's just gone off there. Yeah. It looked like it's a BMW. There is Rens De Lange. De Lange wasn't backing out through Radion and Eau Rouge, but then pretty much got forced to, because they were side by side. And luckily did, because I think they might have all ended up facing the wrong way. Back up to the lead, though. It is Chris Warner still leading the way. Then 4/10 of a second clear of Elvin Smith. We then got Paduano, who was pole position, who's 4/10 of a second further back then on Elvin Smith. Luciano Whitver is in 3rd as the pros, the 4th overall in this race. Then we've got 4 AMs behind. We've got Machkowski, Klaassen, Prentiger, and Sebastian. So that is your top 8. But it looks like we've got a replay of the start of this race then, and while we can catch a look at how Chris Warner has managed to get himself into the lead of this race. So here we go. On board then with Warner, who's on the left-hand side of your screen. We've then got Wilf Paduano on the right-hand side. And Paduano gets a very good first phase there, as you can see. Goes in nice and tight then through Eau Rouge, up Radion. Actually just slightly misses the apex there. And that's what gives the run here to Warner. Warner already pulls alongside as we head to the entry of the Kemmel Straight. And well, by the time they get up to flat out, you see there's almost a little bit of paint swapping there between the 2 of them. But Asta's got his nose in front. Will be able to break a little bit later on the outside line. And actually decides to cover off very early. So very clever from him, but then runs deep. Paduano then is forced to run wide, actually, so he's all out of shape. That's what gives the room then for Elvin Smith to get involved. Elvin then dives across to keep Wilf behind him, as we see a potential move for the lead. I tell you what, it looked like Chris Warner was going to hold on to that, but then runs wide. Elvin Smith has still got that slight overlap. Wilf Paduano might be the problem here for Elvin Smith. They're going to come through Radio de Rouge, and actually they sort themselves out. Chris Warner living to fight another day, but now has the whole Kemmel Straight to defend from. We've got P4 here of Luciano Whitbert, who's also involved. He's actually got ahead of Paduano.
It was incredible. Paduano, fair play, very sensible, backing out of that potentially dangerous moment into Eau Rouge, but it's really cost him on the exit. It's so nice when you're a car that's a bit further behind, you can get a massive run like Whitbert's done there, and it looks like he's going to go side by side now with Elvin. And it looks like he's going to make the move stick. Elvin's going to be all crossed up, and that's going to allow Paduano a look, but Elvin then cuts across to defend. We've got two more cars getting in the mix. That's Maszkowski and Klassen around the outside. Maszkowski first. Is he going to make it stick? No, he's not. And there goes Klassen now down the inside of Paduano, who drops further back. You've also got Prendergast in the second Brabham car in the mix as well. But that was all kicking off. What a brilliant start to this lap.
Yeah, 100%. It's just one of those circuits where if you get offline, you're going to put yourself in a world of pain. As you come down towards Pouon, Elvin Smith, wow, he looked to make a move there on the inside of Paduano, but he's just been shuffled down the pack. I say Elvin Smith, sorry. It's Prendergast, isn't it? He's a little bit further back. We've got two cars battling for position. But yeah, Warner now still leading. Luciano Whitford and Elvin Smith, they're all quite clear of this. But the group behind, you're right. Like, once one car gets out of shape, the rest of them will catch up really quickly, and it becomes an absolute swap of paint fest.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Aston, Mercedes, Aston, Aston, Mercedes, Mercedes, Aston as well at the moment. So a big mixture of those two manufacturers. The top car from a different manufacturer is actually Bobby Trundley in 11th, and it's not the first time this season he's been up there in terms of the non-Mercedes and Aston Martin brigade, but it's been a bit of an unfortunate season for Bobby so far. He got caught up early on in incidents at Donington, so nice to see him still running up there in 11th, and he'll be looking to hang on to as high a position as possible. But Paduano's now going defensive against Prendergast as we cut back to Elvin Smith having a little bit of a look at the back of Whitvet, who had a fantastic lap in the last one to jump all the way up to second, but it's a mistake for Paduano. I missed what happened there, but he's lost a couple of positions. He's going to lose more on the exit, but clearly just going into bus stop side by side, something didn't work out right.
Well, Kieran Prendergast just run a little bit wide there, unfortunately, and well, now he tries to take even more room from someone else. I think Kieran needs to be a little bit careful here. Like, it was just far too aggressive on the exit at the bus stop. I think you can put that down as racing, but then the next bit, where he's trying to open up the track a bit too much, you sometimes have to, let other cars have a bit of room on the racing track there. So I know Prendergast has got to try and get some position. That's no contact there. I tell you what, they're going to hold their brakes. Who was that? That's Ryan Woodrow, I believe. It was. He gets it figured out, and luckily no one else has collected. But we're seeing a few mistakes here early in this race. We've got, 1 hour, 52 minutes to go. You want to save that to, you don't want to have any mistakes at all, but at least save it towards the end.
I have to say, fair play for trying to go side by side through there for our sake. I mean, it's great to watch, but not so great for the trousers on the exit there from Ryan Woodrow. Very, very fortunate that and good car control to manage to keep it to the inside after spinning and just managed to reverse it back out of the racing line. So well done to Ryan Woodrow, but he is going to lose a lot of positions, and it's going to take him a little bit to get back into the rhythm. But yeah, Prendergast, he had a few incidents as well at Donington. A couple of bits of contact with Maszkowski, a couple of misjudgments on Prendergast's side, has to be said from what I've seen. So hopefully he's able to just get settled down a little bit more and avoid some of those mistakes. But we're now going to see a replay of why you should and then shouldn't go side by side through Eau Rouge and Radio. And Woodrow on the outside, just trying to leave a lot of room, really trying to be fair and make it work. But as I say, a fantastic recovery to keep going and not lose too much there, Luke.
Yeah, 100%. You can see the exact moment the brown flag came out there, but luckily he is able to continue a little bit further down the pack. Ryan Woodrow's got a bit of work to do, but one thing that's going to hurt is the tyres. The tyres are going to take some time getting back into a decent temperature range, or pressures are going to be all through the roof. But right now he's still in the race, no damage, should be all good. Just a little bit of damage to the ego.
Your call for a race win, by the way, Maszkowski, as we look at him now, is fastest person on track at the moment. He's caught right up to the back of Elvin Smith as well. And don't get me wrong, Maszkowski as an AM, this driver is anything but an AM. He's been superb throughout the season. I think consistency and race pace has been Maszkowski's strength. Both at Silverstone and Donington, we saw him kind of gain his way up through the leaderboard as the race went on. Obviously had the incident with Prendergast, but he's always come on strong. So definitely watch out for Maszkowski. Anything but an am, as we see a late move from Elvin on the inside of Whitvit. Whitvit leaves him to space, but Elvin's going to muscle his way through. A little bit of argy-bargy, but nothing too sinister there. And they're going to head side by side now down the hill towards Eau Rouge. Maszkowski's going to be eating his popcorn. Let's see what happens then as we head in. No, Elvin Smith, sensible, little bit of a lift. The main thing here is you have to keep that momentum up. You've got to do your lift early so you don't compromise yourself mid-corner, because then you can actually still get a good exit. Now Maszkowski's got a good slipstream, as does Elvin, so Whitvit still has to go defensive here as we get this beautiful panning shot heading towards Lecombe. But Elvin's going to do it on the outside. He's got a bit of an overlap. Whitvit holds on. Maszkowski still just waiting for the contact to come. There it does come. They both run wide. We're going to see a cutback now from Maszkowski. Oh, no, we're not. He's going to go round the outside. Beautiful stuff from Maszkowski, but now he's going to be stuck on the outside as Klaassen gets involved as well.
Oh, it's beautiful stuff there from Maszkowski, just ever the opportunist there, taking full advantage of Elvin and Luciano Whitvit just getting involved with each other. He nearly managed to get himself a bit of a free opportunity here, but right now they are all hemorrhaging time to Chris Warner. So Warner would have been looking in his rear view mirror thinking, yeah, go on lads, I love this, like a bit of this action happening behind me. But now he won't even be able to see him in his rear view mirror. The gap has come out quite significantly. But Maszkowski just needs to be patient right now. He can help his teammate out, who's currently out there in the lead, by slowing down Elvin, by getting involved like this, but he cannot take away any points from Elvin Smith. So you need to pick his battles and just be careful and make sure that he keeps himself in this race.
100%. It is a long race, of course, as well. An hour and 50 minutes still to go. Many laps at Spa. It's going to be a tiring one for these drivers. I have to say, it's a great start for Apex 1. They're leading our team's championship. Obviously, both drivers leading their respective classes and the drivers as well. But you wouldn't say they've been the standout team. They've probably been second best in terms of raw pace. But I think now, especially here at Spa, they seem to be stepping up. You know, they're essentially, they've earned that top spot in the championship. And now they're saying, like, listen, we should be in this top spot. We don't just want to win because of Brabham's problems. We want to show the rest of the field that we deserve that spot. And they're doing it so far as Maszkowski looks to the outside of Whitvit again. It's going to compromise his exit though as they come out of the bus stop chicane, and Klaassen's going to be right on the back of him. And we continue to look at Luciano Whitvit. But yeah, as you can see there, Maszkowski remaining defensive on the way into La Source, which of course could end up compromising the exit. We could jump on board with Klaassen. They're all going to get settled down into a rhythm here eventually, but this is just fantastic to watch in the meantime.
Yeah, this is great. We do like watching people battle for position like this. Hopefully it continues for the next 2 hours. We don't want a boring race, that's for sure. That's just happened in the Middle East. We've got Warner currently leading in P1. 4.3 seconds in the lead to Elvin Smith. We get Whitvit then 4/10 further back. Maszkowski half a second further back. We then got Klaassen, who's 1/10 of a second further back as we look then on board with Klaassen. Looking back then to Kieran Prendergast, who wants to go and be a bit... Oh, well, there's almost a bit of contact. There is contact. I say almost. Oh, God. No, something's happened in front there. So that looked like Maszkowski's involved in that. And I'm not... Maybe Whitvit?
Yeah,
maybe Whitvit as well. Well. Again, we won't find out exactly until they come across the next timing beam as to who's gone out there. Elvin Smith, by the way, has got a 5-second penalty. That's going to hurt him here. Chris Warner, by the way, is basically having all of his birthdays and Christmases rolled into one this race, because everyone else keeps making mistakes around him. But be interested to see that replay.
Yeah, it certainly seems like something's happened there between Whitvit and Maszkowski, because I think it was a World Racing car that was facing the wrong way, and we also saw Maszkowski, I believe. So I'm sure we'll get a replay of that, but it meant that the next three cars all had to take some avoiding action. So just as I was saying, it was nice and, great racing, nice and clean. It's going to keep going. They go and do that. So thanks very much, guys. But we'll see if anyone gets penalised, if anything's gone wrong there. One person that has advantaged is this man, Kieran Prendergast, who's come out in 4th position. Hopefully not with any contact or damage, but here we go. Here's the replay. Luke, talk us through it.
Yeah, so we're heading then down towards Lecombe, and there's a send up the inside. Yeah, it's 6 of one and half a dozen the other. I'm sure. Oh Christ!
Trundley.
Yeah, but they're getting a yellow flag come up on their screen, and they're all still flying through there. So I'm not sure we can excuse any of the drivers flying into an area where there's been an incident. But for me, yeah, I think that there just wasn't enough. There wasn't really enough room left in the car on the inside there, to be honest. They kind of just overextended slightly and created the contact. So it's almost like a replay of what we saw earlier on for Prendergast, by the way. It's like bang on, exactly the same. So I was thinking, well, we're seeing a replay here. Yeah, he just, again, created a bit of contact on the exit and ultimately gained a position as we now run through the hairpin of turn number 1, and it's just jostling for position. We've got some penalties on the right-hand side of our screen. So car number 17 has got a 5-second penalty. That is Farrell. So what we've got here, 802's got a 5-second penalty for contact with 17. So 17's been, Farrell's been involved in a lot of stuff there. So 802 is Grant. And then we've got a 5-second penalty again for 802 for contact with the number 24. As we've got a 3 wide then up towards Laycom. Oh my God, it's 3 AMGs into 1. I'm not sure that's going to work out. As they come through, it kind of did, but kind of didn't. Ultimately, they're all facing in the right direction, so I guess that's a positive.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll give them a positive almost for that one. Just about making it through unscathed. It's been a great run from Sebastian, has to be said, up into P5. Yes, he is. That is him up in P5 in the panda-looking livery. So he's come through the field, doing a great job as a stand-in for World of Racing. And we see now Paduano, who's probably gone the opposite way, has to be said, now down in P6, having started right at the front of the grid. He's 4th in class as well, so it's nothing too bad for Paduano, but he'll be a bit disappointed, I reckon, with how this one's gone. Unlike this man, Chris Warner, well out in front, 4.3 seconds out of Elvin Smith, but of course, with the 5-second penalty for Elvin, I'm not sure what that's for, by the way, that's now 9.3 seconds essentially over Elvin. Of course, that means Klassen is theoretically second in this race. We'll see how those penalties play out during the pit stops, but that's really, really going to hurt Elvin, who doesn't seem to have the pace, as to be said, of Warner anyway, so things are just looking better and better and better for our championship leader.
Yeah, I wonder if we could get a look at that replay again with Matchkowski and see exactly how that went down, maybe from a different angle. Oh, we've got another replay here. Oh, we've got Trunley, who is coming. Where are we on track here? That is on the exit of Bruxelles, down towards No Name. And yeah, just carrying a little bit too much speed, a little bit of a high 5 to the wall, and a full high 10 to the other wall.
Oh dear. I take full responsibility for Trunley's bad race, because I said he was having bad luck, but it seems to be better this time round, and that's 2 bad incidents within a lap or 2 for Bobby. Obviously got caught out by this spinning Whitvit earlier on, and that one was definitely game over. There'll be a lot of damage on that McLaren, and we're now not seeing him inside the top 23, so devastating for Bobby Trunley, but he's going to have to pick himself up yet again and go again for the next round.
Yeah, certainly. Oh, hello. We're good to go. Here we go. So there's the replay once again. So we've got Whitford on the inside. Matchkowski. Oh, yeah. Do you know what? Completely in my opinion, it's just a complete racing incident now. I think they've both, one's tried to pinch, one's tried to kind of carry some momentum on the inside. I just don't think there's not really, when we looked into that, I think that'll go as a no further action.
Yeah, it's one of them where they've kind of come together in the middle, as you say. So it's not like one driver's drifted out, one driver's cut across. They both took what you would say would be the natural defensive line in that situation. But the problem is, in these situations, when both drivers are pushing the limit of what's okay, one driver sometimes has to compromise for it to work. And in that situation, it's difficult to determine who. So obviously the stewards will take a good look at that from all the different angles and come up with, I'm sure, the correct decision. But it was unfortunate more than anything.
Yep, Petrosian with a 10-second time penalty then for contact with the number 92. I'm pretty sure they already have 5 seconds, so I would imagine that goes up to 15 eventually. So yeah, that's not good. Elvin Smith still not had the exact reasoning as to why they had a penalty or why they've got a penalty, but that'll pop up on screen sooner rather than later. Oh, here we are. 5 seconds penalty for contact with number 10. A second warning. So the number 10 being Luciano Whitver, who's down in P13 and has a 10-second time penalty as well. So I actually think they've probably given a penalty to Whitver here for that incident on Matchkowski. We'll wait to hear exactly how that went down. But yeah, that no further action might not be the case.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But Whitfit's race has gone horribly in the last few laps. I think he was my pick for the win, wasn't he? Sorry, I'm really not helping any of my drivers here. But yeah, for Elvin, I'm guessing that was the little bumps we saw on the way out of La Source, for example, just a few too many bits of contact, or maybe it was something we didn't quite see. As Matchkowski dives down the outside now of Paduano, he's going to beautifully keep that one held. Lots of trust as well in Paduano, who, to be fair to him, didn't do anything bad there, kept it nice and tight. Great stuff from the both of them, but that is move done for Matchkowski. Paduano, of course, now coming up to one of the best points to regain that position on the circuit. He's going to run on the outside line into La Source, force Matchkowski to the inside, but tell you what, Matchkowski hangs him out to dry. There's going to be contact on the exit, but well done for backing out there. Van Veen almost spinning around Paduano, but just lifting out of it. It was really interesting. Paduano clearly going for the cutback there on Matchkowski, and Matchkowski, smart to that, just parks his car in Apex and says, nope, you're not coming back on this occasion, and it almost cost Paduano a lot more.
Yeah, you can't do a cutback on a car that's side by side with you, I'm afraid. You kind of need a gap to be working with. And ultimately, yeah, Matchkowski played that perfectly. We've got a bit of defending then, a little bit further ahead here. We've got Paduano, Van Veen and Sudaka all battling for the same bit of tarmac, and ultimately that doesn't tend to work. These have already been 3 wide once today. Hell, why not go for it a second time? There's a bit of a mistake there from Paduano, which might open the door up for that 3 wide. We're on board with Van Veen, who's in behind Paulik and Paduano. Paulik's made the move. Paduano runs wide. There's a little bit of real estate available on the inside. A little bit of nudging there from Van Veen. I'm sure that'll be looked at as well, judging by what penalties we've already had. But ultimately, again, they are all still facing in the right direction. Not sure how, though.
Yeah, I mean, Van Veen's driving a little bit like it's a touring car race right now, and it's not quite. You know, I get that we're racing hard, and sometimes you get a little side-to-side bump and everything, but Van Veen's kind of putting his nose in situations where, you know, there wasn't really an opening there. We all knew that Paduano was going to come back. It wasn't far enough alongside, and instead of lifting, he just kept on bumping a little bit. So hopefully we'll see Van Veen calm down a little bit in that situation. But for now, it's all good. Paduano's still facing the right direction, but I don't think that'll encourage Paduano to be too friendly to Van Veen in his defensive driving later, so definitely one to keep an eye on, these two Mercedes.
First of all, John, it's not your car, so you don't have to pay for the repairs. Second of all, you don't have to deal with any of the penalties, so why you're asking them to calm down is beyond me. I want them to just carry on.
Just go for it. Absolutely send it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind some touring car racing, so
sounds like
nobody complains too much. Let's see what they do into bus stop, because Van Veen's got a fantastic run once again. They're going to look to the outside. Paduano defends the inside. We're not going to see a late switchback or anything from Van Veen. He's going to try and bring it in nice and tightly to get a good exit into the left-hand section. Both of them hit the apex nicely, though, which means it's fairly neutral on the way out. Meanwhile, Klassen having a little bit of a sniff on Elvin Smith, who is just dropping further and further back from Warner. And to be honest, it looks like Klassen could be looking at P2 here.
Yeah, he could be. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a chance to change your prediction here. So I'm going to give you one more chance. Now,
okay.
1 hour, 40 minutes to go. So come on, you've got one more chance.
I've got to go Warner then, don't we?
I'm going to stick with Machkowski. I think he's got the best pace on the grid. I really do. I think over the course of the next 1 hour, 40 minutes, he's going to have to be perfect. But I genuinely believe he has the pace to still go out there and win this race. The fact that he will, I think, go ahead of Elvin via the pit stops anyway, because of the now a 10-second penalty, definitely will.
Oh dear.
He would have been the hardest one to overtake. I think that we might see Machkowski provide us with some magic here. Might give us a drive of the season contender.
Well, I would love to see it. I think Machkowski has been undoubtedly one of the stars of this season. Great to watch, and obviously sitting in a very good position in the AM Championship right now. But I mean, he's 4th in class at the moment in this race, so this could be a bad one in terms of results so far for Machkowski relative to his 3 previous race wins. But yeah, you're right. I think he's been incredibly quick, and we've seen some good racing from him. It's just not all worked out in his favour so far. So let's wait and see. Klassen's still right on the back of Elvin, and with a 10-second penalty, I'm not really seeing where that's coming from for Elvin. I don't think it's track limits. No, I think it is more warnings for contact. So
he had a 3rd warning with a car that's not anymore in the top 23. So yeah, Elvin.
Well, we must be missing something.
Elvin's been elvinging around today. Some weeks we get an exceptional Elvin, some weeks we get a frustrated Elvin. I think his qualifying was frustrating, and he's kind of tried to manufacture moves opposed to, making them with raw pace. So it's just been one of those days today, and well, stewards have taken that opinion as well, and that's why he's got 10 seconds hanging over his head. Yeah,
I think that would drop him down to about 7th or 8th maybe in the standings overall, something like that. So it's going to definitely hurt his race in the long run. But it sounds like it's contact with a few different drivers on the way through.
Yeah, no, he likes to mix it up. There's one thing with Elvin. Every time you watch him race, it's interesting. You'll never get a boring race with Elvin, whether it be an outstanding performance where he's out on his own in the front, or whether he likes to mix it with everyone else. You will always have fireworks with Elvin Smith, I can assure you of that. As we see a bit of a send up the inside, number 19 getting hit again. We've got Sturm, by the way, in the chat going 19's getting hit by everyone right now.
Here we go, touring cars.
Oh, look at this, here we go. Trying to high-five each other. And I'm pretty sure no one's backing out of this.
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
And, well, the 19. Oh, dear. Oh, no. And they both go round. And there's a 3rd. And are we going to see a 4th? No. I could see that coming from a mile away.
Yeah, this is exactly what we were saying before, and I tried, Luke. I tried to not tell him to calm down. I tried to just enjoy myself, and I enjoyed it for about 2 corners, but unfortunately, you could see it, couldn't you? You could see the frustration bubbling up. I think Van Veen wanted the move done. I think Paduano was annoyed at Van Veen's nudging, and it just continued all the way through. Nice drifting, by the way, Elvin. It continued all the way down the hill. They were just side by side, constantly bumping doors, thinking it's a touring car race. And ultimately, they've both paid a huge price, and that could have been so much worse. That could have taken out half the field. So yeah, it was quite funny to look at. Obviously, nice thing about sim racing is no one gets hurt in these big incidents, but not funny for the two drivers involved. And yeah, it's basically ruined both races. And how predictable was that? You know, we both sat there saying if they don't calm down, something's going to go wrong, and it very much did.
Yeah, you know, I giggle, but what else can you do? You know, I can see that happening a mile away. It was always going to end up in catastrophe, and ultimately it did, which gives an opportunity for drivers like Paulik, Sudakar, Woodrow, De Lange. They've all moved up into higher positions now. And it's just a little bit silly. It's got an hour and 35 minutes to go. You know, just if you're slightly ahead, you should be given the right of way through Radio No Rouge at this stage. But they decided against that, and again, that's a driver's prerogative. If you feel like you know, if you've got the talent to keep it on the straight and narrow and manage to go through there side by side, then absolutely go for it. Unfortunately, they didn't.
Well, it was a good move originally from Van Veen. This time he did manage to do it pretty cleanly, as we see a driver spinning off on the side. I'm not sure, I don't think that's going to be our leader, that's probably going to be a back marker. So yeah, it was a great move from Van Veen initially, as I was saying. There was still a little bit of contact on the exit, but it was actually a proper, you know, safe move. There was no front to back contact. As we're seeing a replay now of what happens, so it depends on who hits who. And it looks like Van Veen comes across, but Paduano's still there, so you cannot come across that much when there's a car still there. One of them has to back off, but if the car's still there, you've got to leave the room. So,
I would like,
not great.
I'd like to see that from from the behind perspective of Paduano, because as much as I believe that's actually Van Veen's fault, I don't think he's put his brakes on or tried to avoid. I think he's just continued to go as fast as he can up that hill, even though he was facing sideways. So that's what then ended up causing a bit of a catastrophe, and then we had a third car involved. Well, Van Veen, by the way, he's in the pits, but he's been given 15 seconds for, I assume, that. But I guess basically that was messy. That's really the only outcome we can get from that. It was just very messy. Oh, here we go. So let's check it out then. Perfect. So Van Veen, by the way, just turns in here as if no one's there. He's like, yeah, no, I'm going for it. Was it Van Veen? Was it
yeah.
It's Van Veen. And yeah, there's no brake lights at all.
Oh, and it takes out his teammate as well. It takes out his teammate. So.
Yeah, Paduano's kind of decided, well, you've just driven into me like I'm not there. We're both going to end up facing the wrong way.
I mean, it's a tricky one. I was literally saying, just before we saw that bumping from Van Veen, I did say, you know, he had a few nudges and stuff at Donington. We saw him make some mistakes, so, you know, he would have been looking to keep it clean, and that was before all of this, but he's really not helped himself there, especially amongst the other drivers. It's just not great. And there was a lot of context to that one as well. We saw a lot more side-by-side bumping before they got to Eau Rouge, but, yeah, once they got there, that was just one of those incidents that could have gone in any direction, and they both went into the wall very, very hard. Klassen, by the way, I don't know if you saw, he had a big tank slapper through Radion just at the start of this lap, but managed to get it all gathered up. He's caught back up with Elvin yet again, and obviously Elvin's got his 10-second penalty, so in some ways, is it maybe better for Elvin to let Klassen go? They're not competing, they're in different classes. Elvin's got a penalty anyway, and if Klassen genuinely does have more pace, surely it would help Elvin to just sit in the slipstream and get pulled along by the Mercedes.
You have got zero chance of Elvin Smith letting someone go. I can tell you that right now. That is not going to happen. If Klassen wants to make that move, he will have to make it stick himself. Both those drivers, by the way, we just saw, have got a 15-second penalty for that. I think it should be banned for life, but that's just me. Here we go, down towards turn number 1. Do you know what? I think I was just about to say, I think Elvin may have let him go, but no, actually Klassen decided to not brake for the corner and then run a little bit wide, which is great news for Prendergast. Prendergast right now is actually catching up to Elvin. Might now stay ahead of Klassen and just decide, you know what, I'm 17 seconds, next 17 seconds behind the race leader here. Can I help my teammate out? Because Prendergast overtaking Klassen would make a difference because they're both in the AM class.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a good point. I think if Elvin ends up battling a lot with Klassen here, it will bring those other guys back in. And we did hear from Elvin when he spoke to him at Donington. He was kind of saying he was disappointed that Prendergast had his mistake at the pit stop, because Elvin would have quite happily just sat and played rear gunner in that race. So clearly they're still playing the team game despite being almost 300 points behind. And Prendergast is only 2.1 seconds off the back. So I think you're right. I think Warner's kind of, I mean, he's run away with this one. Elvin, if he didn't have the 10-second penalty, would still be feeling pretty down about this. But with 10 seconds, it kind of puts him out of the running for this win unless something dramatic happens. So I think you might be right. Why doesn't he just hold up Klassen, bring Prendergast back into play here? But obviously Sebastian's not going to be too far behind as well, another World of Racing driver. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But Klassen is going to have to make this move stick, and we thought he was making the move into turn 1, but he seemed to forget that turn 1 was there.
Yeah, Forgot that he had a middle pedal. I guess he only got 2 pedals, but yeah, you know what I mean. I forgot the brake pedal, and unfortunately ran a little bit wide there, but which is going to cost him time. And if Elvin is playing that game, which it very much looks like he is, then that's just perfect right now to head then down towards the back straight that isn't straight. It's a little bit loopy, but it is flat out all the way down towards the braking zone. It's now 8 seconds to lead for Chris Warner. You see it Klaassen basically pushing Elvin Smith now down towards Blanchimont. Again, flat out through here. I think the AMG will probably have to let off ever so slightly just to avoid any potential contact with any overspeed. We see, I wonder what manufacturer of car we're on board with here. Heading towards the braking zone, will take the outside line and has the overlap, but Elvin Smith will defend it. And thus, look who's now getting involved. Oh dear. There we go. Well,
no.
Klaassen has, well, just sent Elvin round the wrong way. I don't think Elvin would be slowing up on the exit of the corner intentionally there. That, you know, that could be deemed a penalty from himself there. So yeah, with the halfway through a stint, tyres maybe struggling to get that power down. Klaassen has just, well, that's not the first time those two have had contact. Klaassen now moves up to second, but I believe the stewards will be getting their slipper out, giving a slap across the bottom. Here's a replay of it. We're looking from the rear of Elvin Smith, which is about to be slightly tanned by the AMG. As we come through, it's a good defensive move originally there, and obviously he's going to be, you know, a little bit slower on the exit because he was compromised on the entry towards the corner was Elvin Smith. So he went defensive initially, and that cost time on the exit. Klaassen just really kept the loud pedal pinned and just drove through the back there of Elvin Smith. So I'll be very surprised if we don't see a little red box appear next to Klaassen's name with a white number in it.
Yeah, there's no excuse there for Klaassen. Maybe a bit of frustration, but you know, you're right. Elvin didn't. It's not as if Elvin came out the corner extra slow and stayed on the left. You know, Elvin came out badly because he had to defend. Klaassen, you know, I we're on board with Klaassen. I'm seeing him coming up to the back of the Aston, thinking he's got to lift, and he didn't. So he clearly had time to think about it. If we had time to observe it, and he's just thrown Elvin straight into the wall. So not good from Klaassen. And I do expect, as you say, there it is, 10-second penalty, which is, I think, probably, you know, not as bad as it could have been, considering how much time Elvin lost in that situation as well. But we saw such good racing, Luke. The first 3 or 4 laps, brilliant, side by side everywhere. The odd bit of close call, but it was really just fair and good and exciting. And in the last few laps, it's just kind of taken a downturn, which is a bit of a shame. Still a long way to go, but the frustration and the adrenaline levels, you can tell, are really high here because we're just seeing some silly decisions being made.
Yeah, no, and you know, I agree with what you just said previously there. Like, there's just nowhere, you know, it was all on Klaassen. He could have avoided that. He knew exactly what he was doing there, and basically decided against avoiding it, and just kept the loud pedal pinned. And do you know what the best course of action there would have been? Just let him go. Just, you know, let him go. Maybe the stewards will, you know, be a little bit more lenient on you for letting them go, but you just don't really see that in esports or very often. You do see it every now and again, but not very often. You obviously don't see it very often in the real world of motorsport either. They kind of just take the penalty on the chin, but it would have been nice to see a bit of sportsmanship there. But that's the second time these two have had it coming together, and it's the second time that Elvin Smith's come off worse off. So maybe there's going to be a part 3 sometime soon.
At least it wasn't another World of Racing car that was hit this time, unlike at Donington. But you know, Prendergast, all of this, we talked about it. These, you know, Elvin wanted to hold up Klaassen to try and bring his teammate in potentially.
Allegedly.
And look, yeah, maybe not, but either way, it's worked out, hasn't it? Because Prendergast is now P3 on the road, but that's going to turn into P2, of course, when Klaassen serves his penalty. So actually, it's come out really good for one of the Brabham cars, just not the other one, unfortunately. But now we're taking a look. Oh, sorry.
If you think about it, actually, they're actually still second. Elvin's not lost anything.
Good point,
I think
actually. Yeah.
With the penalty. I think even with the penalty, he probably still comes out ahead. No, he's going to be close to still being ahead here. As we see some battling, then a bit further back here, Petrosian battling with Law, and Law making a nice little move there, actually, moving up into what would be P16. So yeah, Elvin right now, I think would actually still come out ahead. Well, it would be very, very tight between him and Sudakar. So realistically, he's actually not lost anything in terms of points. So it's worked out pretty well, considering that Klaassen also gets a 10-second penalty. I don't think he would say that right now, but yeah, when you look at it a little bit later on and go, actually, that wasn't the worst thing for the team.
Do you know, the issue is, though, look, he hit this concrete wall fairly hard, so I do think he'll be carrying some damage from that, and that's going to lose him lap time. It's also going to make his pit stop longer if he wants to try and repair that, so it will have a long-term effect. And Elvin was clearly struggling anyway, so it might have been that he had a bit of damage from early contact, potentially, because he, you know, we usually see Elvin so everything's under control. He's got incredible pace, and we didn't see that necessarily as he was trying to hold off Klassen in the first place. So I do think that Aston will be carrying a bit of damage, but I mean it looks remarkably okay considering at this current moment. So we'll not judge that too much until we see how the pace is. But I guess he's going to have to come flying back through in the second half. And now it looks like, okay, he's still definitely got a chance of second, but even second now is going to be a fight on his hands, put it that way.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more there. It's not, I wouldn't say it's been the most perfect day for Elvin by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, if he has got damage, which it looks like it very likely he does, although he is chasing down Matchkowski, who's probably the fastest driver on the circuit. Yeah, I guess we'll figure that out.
218.2. Sorry, just 218.2 from Elvin in that last lap. So that's pretty quick considering. Yeah. I mean, most people can't get under 220 with a perfect car in qualifying.
No, that is a good point there. I'm not going to lie, that's a very, very good point. Let's talk about Sebastian right now. Currently in P4, P3 in the AM class. Best performance so far of the season. Is going to move up into a outright podium position with Klassen having that 10-second penalty. Candidate for driver of the day.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, obviously, I think this is his first appearance of the season, coming in to replace Cody Cosford, so it's been a fantastic debut. We saw him do fairly well in qualifying, but this is really moving up, and do you know what it is? He's kept it clean, he's kept it consistent, he's got involved in the battles, but he's not got involved in any of the contact, the incidents, the anger, and we've got this Mad Panda liveried car, but he's actually a World of Racing car, doing nice, consistent running, 1.9 seconds off Kieran Prendergast, who's been one of the stars of the season, so absolutely right, driver of the day so far has to be, along with Warner, Sergi Sebastian.
Yeah, I will say that. We just had Stephen out here give us some information. Again, normally it's to be taken with a handful of salt, but this one's correct. He's actually just stated that Elvin is about 1/10 of a second slower than what Warner is producing right now. So yeah, Warner's leading the race. So Elvin's in a good spot, I think. The damage is not going to be that significant, and probably won't need to fix anything. So yeah, it's not the worst position in the world for him to be in. He'll be a little bit annoyed how it's gone, but ultimately he's on the recovery drive. Similarly to what Ryan Woodrow was. He was down in 18th after some misdemeanors in the first couple of laps. Finds himself now in 9th position, and he's actually behind a teammate here of Sudakar. Clearly faster. I would imagine Sudakar moved that car out of the way. And, although they are racing against each other, they're in different teams for World of Racing. Remember, World of Racing have 77 teams in this championship, so, there's plenty of them out there. But Woodrow would expect his sister, brother, teammate, whatever you want to call it, to just kind of move out of the way. By the way, there are so many penalties on our screen. So many.
There's a lot, and I'm not surprised based on some of the stuff we've seen. Woodrow, of course, as you say, he was the one who was facing the wrong way at full speed through Radion earlier and managed to get away with it. So it's been a good season for Ryan Woodrow so far. He's kind of gone under the radar a little bit, but he's been up there in the top 10. He's been up there in the championship as well. I believe he's currently sitting in 7th position overall in the championship, and in Pro, which is more important, he's sitting in P4. So it has been good for Woodrow. He's right behind Elvin in the title fight, and still behind Elvin in this race on circuit, but in reality he's probably pretty close. Well, no, the gap there, Elvin's got 10 seconds over Sudakar now. You're absolutely spot on. So he has now got that gap beyond the amount of his penalty, and Woodrow will still be desperate to get past Sudakar. Prendergast, meanwhile, getting past Klassen, and after what happened with Elvin and Klassen, I wouldn't have been surprised to have seen a few fireworks here, but it looks like Prendergast made the move nice and cleanly around the outside, and that's P2.
Wow, that's the lead for the AMs as well, so it's not just P2, he's now into the lead of his class. So that's very nicely done indeed. As you see a BMW just out on the outside there. But yeah, Klassen being caught. I wonder if he has a bit of damage actually. He's lost a significant amount of time over the last couple of laps. It was gap was about 7 seconds, now it's out to 10. But yeah, Prendergast now finds himself into the lead. We're about to see a replay of the overtake. Just caught the tail end of it. Up over the top then of Eau Rouge as we now head into the slipstream of that AMG. And wow, this difference in straight lines must have been a slight mistake there from the Mercedes driver. Has to be, because the difference in speed is very significant. Down in towards Lake Com, across early the bonnet of the AMG behind, and yeah, ultimately it was a very comprehensive move. Lovely.
Yeah, it was good. It was strange because it looked like the exit speed wasn't that bad from Klassen, but I guess we didn't see the earlier run, and obviously Prendergast did get a better run overall. But yeah, the change in speed was remarkable considering the slipstream's strong, but that was very strong indeed. Great performance down the straight from the lightened Aston Martin, and as you say, Prendergast now leads could be on for a second AM victory of the season, but there's still 1 hour and 21 minutes to go, so a heck of a long way. Championship rival Maszkowski still 4th in class, but not far behind Sebastian, who we've been mentioning plenty of times in this broadcast. Bearing in mind, of course, Klaassen also has that 10-second penalty, so all of these guys will move up another spot. Meanwhile, Woodrow still trying to move up that one spot against his teammate Sudikar. He's got a great run towards bus stop. I don't think we're going to see Sudikar defend here. Exactly as predicted, Sudikar moves out the way, and nicely out the way, to allow Woodrow to come over and take his line under braking, which he almost does, and makes the corner. So yeah, good stuff from World of Racing. The right thing to do in this situation, even though it's not as exciting for us, and Woodrow moves up into the top 8 overall.
Yeah, off to chase down my driver of the weekend last time out, Paulik. So Paulik currently in 7th position. He will also gain a spot on Elvin Smith, and he will also gain a spot on Klaassen, so he's also battling for what would be, well, top 5 in the AMs. He will actually go up to 4th position. So we're on board with Klaassen, just trying to keep with Prendergast. Prendergast looks very fast at this stage of the race, that's for sure. Looks extremely fast, actually, at this stage of the race. Sergi Sebastian would have been hoping that these two kind of got into it a little bit more. And look who's just in behind them as well. Maszkowski in P5. Will, I think, if he gets ahead of these drivers, will find even more time. Look at his lap time, 2:18.0 on his last lap. He's done a 2:17.7. The consistency between his best and his last is 0.3 of a second. So looking very, very good indeed is Maszkowski. And, you know, I may have said, predicted him to win here. It would be quite nice to see him go out there and do that job. But the way Warner's driving is becoming increasingly more difficult to see.
Yeah, Warner's just edging away. He's not a million miles away. He's 10 seconds out of Prendergast. And considering the amount of instance that the traffic has been involved in from second place backwards, Prendergast has also been slowed up by a lot of stuff. 10 seconds is not as big a gap as I think we've seen from Elvin previously, for example. But Warner's just managing his tyres, he's managing his car, he's managing the traffic, and I think he's got it firmly under control, as you say. Maszkowski slowly closing in on Sebastian at this current moment, though. 7/10 was the gap, now it's 4/10, and it's going to be a good slipstream for the Aston. We've seen recently how quick the Aston is in a straight in that Mercedes slipstream, so we're probably going to see that once again. He's just going to creep towards the back of Sebastian, and this will be a good gauge for us. Obviously, Sebastian making his debut in the series up against the man who leads the series in class and overall, so I think it's going to be a good learning experience for Sebastian, and it'll be good for us to learn just how well he can defend.
Yeah, 100% here. I think Maszkowski will assume that this is going to be a bit of a freebie, whereas Sebastian is going to make this as difficult as he possibly can. This is for a genuine position. You may have not heard the name Sebastian in this championship because it's his first race this season. So we're heading then through La Source, and how fruity are we going to get then on the exit? Looks like the AMG gets a pretty good run on the exit so far, but ultimately, as we come through Radio and Eau Rouge, the Aston Martin will slowly close up. I'm not sure the gap is quite close enough, unless there's a little bit of a mistake then over the top of the hill. And actually, it looks like the Aston Martin has got a superb run. They're running up towards that rear wing again. I don't think that the Aston's quite close enough to make a move this time round. If it is, it's going to be a bit of a Hail Mary down towards the braking zone for Lecom. As we come in towards that braking zone, yeah, Maszkowski decides to back out. But I believe he does have the pace, and it's only a matter of time before he gets at least an opportunity.
Yeah, I thought Maszkowski was the perfect distance behind the Mercedes coming out of La Source, because obviously this move gets set up a long way before, but he just seemed to lose a little bit of pace on the way down the hill, so maybe just didn't quite get the exit we expected. But
I think we've got to give credit to Sebastian there, to be honest. I think he got a really good exit, to be fair. So I think, credit where credit's due. I think neither really made a mistake there. So it's easy to be too close. You're spot on. It's always nice to have a little bit of a gap to sort of push in towards, because if a car in front of you does go through there a little bit slowly and you're really right up their fart box, then you're going to struggle. But ultimately, there was a perfect amount of space between the two of them. But I just think Sebastian did a really good job.
It's something that, if people are watching sim racing for the first time, it's something you really do have to think about. It's not just about getting as close to the driver in front as you can as quickly as possible. In a track like this with a slipstream, you really have to be tactical. You've got to essentially leave a bit of a gap so that you can get that slingshot. If you catch the driver in the middle of Radion, you're not going to be able to do anything with that run. You're just going to hit that air block as you pull alongside. So you really do need to just try and time it perfectly. And these drivers will be thinking about these things. You don't always want to be right up the back of another car heading onto a long straight. So let's see what happens in the next lap. It's definitely a good first defensive lap from Sebastian. No pressure, no mistakes, no nothing. And Maszkowski has managed to maintain that gap at about 4/10. So he's going to have another go for sure very, very soon. But let's see how attempt 2 goes.
Yeah, 100%. Again, you know, he might want to be a little bit closer this time round. Gets a nice exit there out of the bus stop chicane. Looks like Sebastian's maybe under a little bit more stress. Ran a little bit wider on the exit as we come across what will be the finish line later on in this race. As we head through La Source and we head towards the start line of this race. And again, I think the Aston might be just a little bit closer this time around. So if the exit of Radion Rouge is nailed, there will be an opportunity up towards Lake Com. They've got that long run along the Camel Straight. Slipstream is so vital because it is a massive hill. It doesn't really get enough credit for how big of a hill this is. This is uphill all of the way. It looks flat in video games, but it isn't. It is a significant height difference between the start of this straight and indeed up towards the top of it. And again, not quite close enough to take any advantage. And again, you've got to give credit to Sebastian, because ultimately they are actually now both catching up to Klaassen and maybe even Prendergast as well. So yeah, not only is Sebastian defending, but he is also making a move up the hill, up towards the front drivers. So we're on board with Elvin Smith here, and this is, oh dear, Elvin Smith. Yeah,
remember that middle pedal?
Yeah, that's either a complete disconnect of the of his equipment, or he's just decided to park it. Or I say park it aggressively.
I mean, to be honest, in the position Elvin was in and in his championship position, I don't think surely he wouldn't have left that in a rage, because he was still in a really good position in this race. You know, he's still at P2 in Pro, so I do not see the reason. I get that he would have been very frustrated because he was certainly hit hard by incidents that weren't his fault, and of course made a couple of mistakes himself, so had the penalty. But surely that must have been some sort of pedal issue. But it's a really strange one from Elvin. He seemed to be able to steer it perfectly into the corner, so I'm sure we'll hear more about it later. But either way, it's devastating for him and his championship, because that is, once again, you know, Brabham just not getting the results that their pace justifies. And okay, at Spa they've not been quite as competitive as other rounds, but still they were on for big points, and that's going to really hurt them. It's going to hurt Elvin's solo championship ambitions as well. We were saying earlier he's definitely still in the fight, and I don't know if we can be saying the same now. And this man, Chris Warner, has just been given a golden ticket, sitting there in the mid-17s. Everything's golden. He's got a 10-second lead over someone who's not in his class. The next pro is 7th overall. He might as well just go for a bath.
Yeah, this would be enough winning this race. I think this would be him being crowned champion. Of course, you know, 3 DNFs, then you know you're in trouble at the end of the season. But yeah, for me right now, he is punching his way to becoming the British GT Esports Cup champion 2024 for the pro class. And again, I don't think he's been the outstanding star of the field, considering. Oh, well, hold on. Well,
it's the Elvin effect.
That is the quickest way of taking that corner, but it's also the quickest way of ending your race. So that looked pretty spectacular, but ultimately it's not great. Again, lots of penalties to be served. We've got a stop-go penalty for Law, which I believe was the car we just saw, right? So that would have been for track limits, I think.
Oh, that's painful.
They've been given a stop-go 30. No, stop-go 30 is for speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah.
So that they're in the pit, so I think there might be just a case of we're done for today. But yeah, back on to the story of Chris Warner. We're an hour and 15 minutes out from this race being over, and this looks like a glorious day in the office there for the Apex 1 driver. And you were mentioning about Elvin. I just don't see Elvin, you're right, giving up. It's not an individual champion. The prizes are not dealt with on an individual basis. It's a team championship. So you're just letting your teammate down. You're just letting your team down if you decide to rage quit in a race like this. So I just can't see it. I think if it's an individual basis in terms of the prizes, then I wouldn't say it's understandable, but you know, it makes a bit more sense. I just don't think he's doing that because it is a team event. So I think that will be enough evidence for me to say that it's a technical issue.
No, for sure. I'm with you on that one, definitely. I mean, Prendergast up in second, Brabham, okay, they're a long way behind the leaders, but there's still prizes for second and third in the team's championship, so they had every reason to fight on. So yeah, just unfortunate once again for Brabham Esports. Not the first time this season. It's been the story of their season, but you know, there's always, like anything, there's always next time, there's always next season, there's always the next round to come back and get the results. And this man will be happy enough with how his race is going, so it's kind of switched on this particular occasion. Prendergast not having a great run at Donington. It was going well, and it kind of just slowly unravelled the second half of the race. But this one's kind of going in the opposite direction at the moment. He's now finding himself comfortably in P2. Still that 10-second or so gap to Warner up ahead of him. It's now 11 seconds, so still just increasing it marginally as Warner every single lap. But of course, for Prendergast, it's not really mattering because he is an AM and Warner is a pro. So he is, of course, therefore leading his particular class in this race.
I might race next time. I think if I can keep my nose out of trouble and not get any penalties, I might do all right, to be honest. Might get myself some tickets to a British GT race. Why not? I'm definitely not fast enough, but yeah, just keep my nose clean. Who knows? Could get a top 10 here or there. It's been dominated by penalties. I wonder if Adam's here, actually, because last time I challenged him to see whether he could figure out if anyone has received 0 penalties this season. If so, they should win themselves a prize on their own for that alone, because the stewards have been so busy. Again, credit to all the stewards. I don't want to ever do that job, so yeah, credit to them for sifting through all of the incidents and making sure that everything's nice and consistent. That they've had so much work to do.
Yeah, I mean, Sebastian's probably the only person who hasn't had a penalty yet.
That's a good point, yeah. He's the cleanest driver out there.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing. You just enter one race, do a great job, and retire. Easy. That's why I'm commentating now and not racing anymore.
See you next round.
Mashkovsky, by the way, is not really making any inroads. He's still 6/10 behind Sebastian. He was 8/10 a minute ago, so maybe it's the dirty air, maybe it's the tyres, or maybe it's just the pace is close between the two of them. I think Sebastian is clearly got good pace. He's got good consistency. We didn't see any mistakes, and Mashkovsky just doesn't have enough to justify a push at this stage. I do wonder if we'll see an attempted undercut from Mashkovsky, because we are getting closer now. I believe we might only be 5 minutes away from the pit window opening, so maybe 2-3 laps and we'll see the likes of Mashkovsky diving in. Maybe we'll see a Klassen diving in to try and get rid of that penalty as early as possible. So it's going to get spicy very soon, and you're going to want to catch that.
Yeah, I will say one thing. He pushed early in this race, and he obviously found himself out of position due to contact that was not his fault as well, and shuffled him back down the pack, and he had to push again. So we know that he was the quickest out there at one point. His lap times were absolutely exceptional, so I'm expecting to see Mashkovsky be very quick in the second stint. I just think he might have just pushed the tyres a little bit too hard, and ultimately now paying the price. Still, by the way, lapping the same as everybody in front of him. So it's not like he's completely off the pace, but has absolutely pushed as much as he can. I think Mashkovsky might want to get ahead of Sebastian here, just so he could take his own pit stop kind of control. Because, you know, if he decides he wants to come into the pit and then all of a sudden Sebastian comes in right in front of him, that can cost you kind of half a second, maybe even a second, because you're, you know, trying to, maybe they get a slow pit stop in front, but you're trying to preempt what they do. So ultimately, it might be an idea for Mashkovsky to try and push here, and try and find himself a position. Although Sebastian has just shown no signs of flinching whatsoever.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Mashkovsky maybe just does whatever Sebastian doesn't. I think, you know, I really like the way the pit stops work on ACC, because as a driver, you know, obviously we don't have a real crew changing the tyres and fixing the car, so everything's done through, you know, predicted time and things like that, which keeps it nice and fair. But you still, as a driver, can.
There are people out there that still believe that the pit stop people are real.
I'm really sorry to all of you. I've ruined Christmas. No, I don't want to ruin that too. Anyway, moving on quickly. Quick. There's no age limit on this, is there? Okay. No, I think, you know, one thing you can do in ACC as a driver to influence it is nail your entry, and not just towards the speed limit line, but also into your box. We saw Prendergast. That's why he lost the lead at Donington. He overshot his pit box. So the more pressure you have from a car behind, the quicker you might try and get into the pit box. And it's so easy to slightly misjudge it, because we're talking, I mean, centimeters here between your car being jacked up and your pit stop starting and the mechanics pushing you back for 5 seconds. So if you've got a car right behind you, maybe you're more likely to make a mistake in that situation, and then it comes down to how you deal with pressure. How can you handle these sorts of things? How much practice have you put into those sorts of moments? So I like that you can still, as a driver, have an influence by being calm and collected on the way into the pits.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of just whenever I do an endurance race, I want to make sure that I'm just going in there on my own. I don't want anyone in front of me or behind me, so I can just take my time. You know, I've obviously practiced it, but I just don't want anyone else to make a mistake around me and force me to lose a load of time. One driver who isn't losing any time is Chris Warner. Still out in the lead here. We are on lap 20. It'll be 23 once we next cross the line. And yeah, he's ahead of Kieran. I guess it'd be lap 24 actually. Kieran Prendergast then just a little bit further behind, about 10 seconds behind now, as you can see just in the back of your screens. He was just appearing as we come through turn number 1, and then we've got Klassen, who's a further 2.3 seconds back, so currently 11 seconds clear of P2, about nearly 14 seconds clear of P3, and then about 15 seconds clear of P4, and then you've got Mashkovsky pretty close in behind. So if Mashkovsky was to go out there and try and challenge for the win, he needs to gain about 16 seconds over the course of the next stint. I'm not sure Warner's slow enough for that to happen. I think Warner has just shown he is the star of the field today, not only in qualifying, although he wasn't pole position, remember. He wasn't. Paduano was pole position. Chris Warner was in second, but managed to get into the lead very early in this race. And realistically, hasn't looked back, has he?
Not at all. He hasn't really needed to since probably lap 2. I wouldn't be surprised if Warner's turned off his mirror at this stage. 11.1 seconds out in front. The drama was all happening behind him, and that was the key, really. If he didn't manage to get away and break that slipstream, you'd have that train running from first to about 8th. But because he managed to escape, suddenly everyone from second down to 8th loses 2-3 seconds a lap. And we did see some phenomenal battles going on. 3 wide, 2 wide, contact, no contact, everything that could have possibly happened. But Warner's just avoided it all, and it just shows you how important it is to get that good start. We saw the move done on the first run down the Kemmel Straight. You know, he went round the outside of Paduano, cut across to defend, and thankfully for him, even though he missed the apex, he managed to block off Paduano, and that's what triggered all of that. So it really was one for Warner at the start, and then he's been able to just drive away ever since. So yeah, an hour and 5 minutes to go. It's just looking superb for Apex 1 and for Chris.
100%. And what if you just joined us on the broadcast? Let's check out exactly what has happened so far in this race. And well, I can tell you, it's been exciting. There's Wilf then, who was P1, qualified P1 in the AMG. But ultimately, we're on board who is our race leader right now. Chris Warner gets a lovely run then over the top of Eau Rouge. And as you can see, by the time they even get onto the Kemmel Straight, they're pretty much along side by side. And well, by the time they got to the braking zone, Warner had a great opportunity to take the lead. It was all about really keeping his cool and indeed converting that lead of the race. He does. He walks up into Les Combes, takes the position, runs a little bit wide, grabs a little bit too much curb, but ultimately everyone else in behind suffered with the side-by-side action. But he does have that lead. Elvin Smith then filtered into second position, but ultimately he was not there for too much longer. We get a lovely pan shot then of Eau Rouge here. Now we go a little bit further back then, so we're seeing there's some side-by-side action here with World of Racing, and well, you just saw Ryan Woodrow, wasn't it? It was just him on his own, made a mistake. Luckily, you see the red lights on the back of his car, holding his line and making sure that he doesn't make any mistakes, and ultimately then did indeed stay out of everybody's way. We see some action then where this is Machkowski, who was absolutely flying at this stage, was closing up towards the leaders, and there was some side-by-side action between him and Luciano Whitver. Again, we're about to see this for the second time, I believe. Here we go, look, so you can see it as slow-mo there. There was no further action for both drivers. Actually, I think Whitver actually got a penalty, to be fair. But yeah, there wasn't too much in it. But ultimately, yeah, it rendered Machkowski's run towards the front of the race almost useless. We saw contact then between Paduano and indeed Van Veen. 2 AMGs, make that 3, and Van Veen's teammate decided to join in. Not ideal. And then we saw this a little bit later on, some great action then battling for second position. Elvin Smith, getting cleaned out from second position by Klaassen. Klaassen did indeed get himself a 10-second penalty for that action. Elvin Smith dropped down the order. Now we're a little bit further back here. So we're seeing another one of the Brabham versus World of Racing battles, and the difference in speed was absolutely ridiculous here. Kieran Prendergast making the move around the outside towards Les Combes, grabbing a load of curb. Actually didn't really need to do too much there. Now we're going to see Elvin Smith, who has been raw pace-wise the quickest car out there. And well, in towards turn number 1, he just kept going. And into the wall he went. And well, that's not the only one that kept going. We saw Laws as well, who was in a BMW, decided to make Les Combes the fastest corner on the circuit. And ultimately ended up in a wall and is also no longer in this race. And actually, by the looks of things, the pit window is open, drivers are in the pits, and I believe we've only got 20 cars left in the race. And actually, I think we might only have 18. So it's been a race of attrition so far. And if you keep your nose out of trouble, well, ultimately, that means you're going to be running pretty well. And apologies if you did hear a child in the background there, guys. My 4-year-old had left his blanket in my office, so he just came in and grabbed it. So there you go. Little Jack getting involved in the broadcast. What a guy.
Excellent stuff. I'm very glad, by the way, that real racing cars don't use USP pedals. I think that would be a bit disastrous. We've seen a couple of big incidents that seem to be hardware related for Law and Smith. But
yeah, I'm not sure Laws was a hardware issue.
Yeah.
I think that might have been a case of, I want to see how quickly I can go through this, and then I'm going to go and chill out and have a beer somewhere, to be completely honest. I could be wrong. But,
well, yeah, with Stop Go 30, I think around here you'd still be serving it, wouldn't you? So yeah, your race is very much gone.
He turned right, mate. He literally turned right to try and make the corner. So he didn't just continue straight on. I think he decided, I've had enough of this. I'm going to go and have myself watch the Gladiators on a Saturday evening. I'm off.
Well, they do say, learn from the best, watch the quickest drivers, see what they do, and try and replicate it. So.
Yeah. I get it. Watch what Elvin's done and just try and copy him. Yeah, not the best way of doing things today.
Yeah, maybe he should have gone for the Mashkovsky approach, looked at the championship standings instead. But Mashkovsky, I'd actually kind of forgotten that it was him that got involved with Whitvit earlier on, so that also could be contributing. He would have heated up the tyres quite significantly there, maybe a tiny bit of damage, but I think more likely just into the tyres, and that would have not been helping him in his battle back through the field. We've not quite seen the pace of Mashkovsky that we both know he's got. You know, he's been phenomenal throughout this season and for the start of this race as well, but he's still going to be in that battle for Sebastian once the pit stops play out. Speaking of Sebastian and pit stops, we have the Merc in the pits for his first and only stop of the race, and just to be clear, on the HUD on the left there, you've got the little number 1 with the orange box behind it. That tells you that the driver still has to serve one mandatory stop. The green box that you can now see beside Sebastian's name signifies that they have served their one stop. So Sebastian on his way back out. Seiko, Tomlinson, all these guys are in the pits behind as well, and we will very soon see the top 6 or 7 also pulling into the pits.
Yeah, I think Mashkovsky comes in here if Klaassen doesn't. Klaassen holding that inside line there says to me that he is going to come in. That's almost an indicator to let him know. But yeah, I think you do the opposite here if you're Mashkovsky. And he has done the opposite. He's decided to come in. So that one extra lap, he will be faster. So right now, Sebastian is going to be slower for 1 lap, maybe 2. By the time he gets the pressures up, you know, he's going to be golden. So Mashkovsky might be able to get track position, but ultimately he will then be struggling for pace for a lap or 2 as well. So that's the opportunity then for Sebastian to have, you know, the better pressures and then maybe look to get back up ahead of Mashkovsky. So it'll be interesting to see what the merge is like here. Mashkovsky was only a few tenths behind, so I reckon we might see, unless he got held up by Klaassen significantly, I think we might see Mashkovsky come out ahead here of Sebastian. It's going to be very tight indeed.
It certainly will be. Sudakar in the pits behind as well. And of course, Klaassen, who's currently running in 3rd, when he comes in for his stop, he's going to have 10 seconds added on top anyway, so we're going to see Klaassen drop down, but thankfully you can serve those penalties, and then it's kind of status quo on the way out, so let's see what happens there. But it is going to be Mashkovsky versus Sebastian that we're going to want to pay attention to here.
Yeah, 100%. That is the battle between the two of them, so it'd be nice to see exactly where Mashkovsky is. He should be coming out the pits now. And there we go. So, was he?
Give it another year. Another year.
Yeah, he's just about stopping, isn't he? So it will be really quick here. You know, the fuel going in the car, and then indeed the tyres. Whereabouts on track is Sebastian? That's also something we need to have a look at, and then we can kind of get an idea as to where they are going to meet on circuit. I think this is going to be super, super close. Actually, this is nice. Stay on board with one of them. Well, there we go. There's Sergi Sebastian. So he comes then through the bus stop chicane. Still has to go towards La Source. Still has to make, well, he's actually pushing. He's 100% pushing to try and keep that position. He runs a little bit wide there, but it's going to be all about that merge. Remember, it's the longest pit lane that they will have to do on ACC. It's the longest pit lane in the world, isn't it? To be honest, it's ridiculous. Here we go. So Mashkovsky is still on the pit limiter, and he will be now able to go flat out. I think you might see an AMG appear to your left-hand side, guys. I think that Mashkovsky is going to be struggling to be able to get into the lead here. I predicted that he would be in the lead, and actually, by the looks of it, no, he's going to get caught. He is in the lead as it stands now, but as we come up towards that braking zone, the AMG should be up to speed a little bit faster and should just about get ahead. This is going to be tight. Can you go deep under braking for Mashkovsky? He decides against it. Of course, the pressures in his tyres are not going to be quite there, ready to attack, and actually the sensible decision there was to stay in behind. I knew it was going to be close. I wasn't sure it was going to be that close. Fair play, Sebastian with a great out lap and in lap, and ultimately has kept hold of that podium position in the AM class.
Excellent stuff. It just tells me that both of them equally nailed their pit stops as well, because they've come out almost exactly where they were before. Obviously Mashkovsky a little bit closer to the back of Sebastian, but then he had the overlap with the warm tyres. So yeah, superb from both of them. We love to see that on the way out the pits. And Mashkovsky not trying anything dirty, not trying a sudden move to try and block Sebastian or anything, letting him go, and now he can get his tyres up to temperature and we will resume. But can you believe how long the pit stops are? I mean, we saw, I think, Sebastian's last lap 3 minutes 44 seconds. That's almost Le Mans length of lap. And we did see, we saw Mashkovsky enter the pit lane. We cut away, did some highlights, chatted about a few things, had a beer, and then he still hadn't pulled into his pit box. So it's incredibly frustrating as a driver around here, just waiting and waiting and waiting to get into your pit box. But obviously it's the same for everyone, so unless you get a stop-go penalty or a drive-through penalty, it's not going to really matter. As we now see Warner, of course, in the pits as well, and that's the one mistake Warner can still make. Obviously he can make a mistake on circuit, but the easiest thing for him to get wrong now would be to speed speed in the pits, for example, just release that limiter or change gear, because on ACC, if you change to second gear, it disables your speed limiter, which has caught me out far too many times. So this is probably the most dangerous point of the race now for Warner, but sounds like he's got it nailed. The guy's a pro, and he's going to head it back out the pits and resume his 11-second lead. Obviously, Prendergast still to come into the box as well.
Track limits is probably the biggest thing to worry about now, because it's a drive-through, and that will, you lose a year's worth of time. And you asked me a question, can you believe how long the pit stop is? Yes, I've had to sit through them, right with you, literally here, John. It's been long. I could get a stopwatch out and probably run out of numbers. It takes that long for them to go through the pits here. But right now, Prendergast, who will effectively take the lead of this race momentarily, but he will have to bring the car in now. It is as simple as that. Whereabouts is he on track? Prendergast, to say that he might miss it here, or is he close enough? I don't know where he is on track actually.
It looked like there was a Brabham in the pits though. It didn't, well, unless that was Prendergast. I think actually, sorry Luke, I think Prendergast might have had an issue here, because it looked like we were cutting to Prendergast a little bit there, and it looked like he was in the pit box, but we haven't seen him pull into the pits, and now on the timing screen, I'm not seeing his name anywhere. So have we just seen a third disconnect for Kieran Prendergast? Another lead position situation, and away he goes. This is, you couldn't write it. It's remarkable.
Yeah, it's... What can you say that hasn't already been said? They've had the most poorest luck out of any team on the grid. It's it's very gutting for them. But it opens up an opportunity here as we have noises that I believe are illegal coming from the production team. Steve making some incredible noises.
They were almost as good as the car.
I might be enjoying it a bit too much, but here we are. But and one man's troubles is another man's gain. Holland up into P8, Seiko up into P7. Like, there's an opportunity here for them to get podiums. Sudakar currently second in the pros. There's opportunities here for some podium sitters that we haven't seen before. Right now, Sergi Sebastian on his British GT Esports Cup 2024 debut, currently leading the AM class.
Excellent stuff. I think whenever a new driver comes in, you always want them to start off well. But I think it's the manner in which Sebastian's done this race. Look, he's not been at the front on raw pace and just had to defend for his life. He's just calmly made his way up through the grid. We've not seen any mistakes. He's been nice and clean, not been on the penalty board unlike most of his competitors. So it's been really, really good from him. And he now leads, which just shows you it's about playing the long game. And the man we're watching right now as well, by the way, Thomas Holland. I wanted to mention him earlier because he is now the top runner outside of the Mercedes and Aston Martin brigade, which should really be a championship in itself this season in British GT Esports Cup, but I actually completely forgot to mention it earlier when I noticed, so sorry Thomas, but well done. You're now up into 8th position overall in that gorgeous looking and sounding Porsche. Tomlinson right on the back though in another one of the Aston Martins, just half a second back. There it is. Looks like the owned racing car, number 1. But it's, good stuff from Holland. Obviously great stuff from Sebastian as well, but terrible luck once again for Brabham Esports and Prendergast. The thing that gets me about these disconnections, Luke, Prendergast is a very experienced sim racer, so if he had a problem like this that happened all the time, he would have to solve it, and he probably would have solved it, because he races in other series beyond just this one. So for me, I don't know what it is, but something unfortunate is happening when he joins these particular races. It can't just be three coincidence disconnects.
He used to race in my series when I ran at ACC series back in the day, and it's happened many a time. So yeah, it's quite a common issue. And ultimately, if there's a problem with your internet in the area you're in, there's not much you can do about it, right? Apart from move out.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Not sure there's enough money currently in sim racing for you to decide to relocate based off of an internet issue. So it's something you just have to deal with. It's Holland about to give us some fireworks in the Porsche. The scream of that Porsche as we run down in towards Les Combes. There's a gap to work with, and well, ultimately that doesn't quite work out. And now he's in an AMG Aston Martin sandwich, and this is currently a battle for P7.
Yeah, there was an apex there for one of them to take, but neither of them chose to do so.
You can't judge someone's driving, John. I've seen you drive.
I'm sitting here in the commentary box. I can do what I like. A 10th off the back of Seiko, though. So Holland looking very, very good in that Porsche. Rear engine, of course, the only rear engine car, rear wheel drive. Such a fun car to drive, isn't it? You can really throw it into the corners. You have to treat it with respect. You have to, be cautious on the exit, on the power. But it's just such a rewarding driving experience, no matter what sim you're on. The Porsche GT3 car, absolutely mesmerising. So I'm sure Thomas is having a lot of fun as he works his way up through the field. And yeah, all of these retirements really coming in handy for these guys that are running, 10th to 15th. Even Whitvit's back up to 11th overall. He's running, I think, 7th or something in pros, if I can quickly count those numbers. But yeah, Holland now on P4 in the pro class, so he'll be absolutely chuffed to bits with that. And looking all over the back of Seiko for the podium. Seiko had a good run Silverstone a few weeks ago. He's had a pretty decent season, been thereabouts, but nice to see him running well up in the top 10. He's got a lot of work in his hands, though, to hold on to this position.
Yeah, 100%. I've just sent a message out to Kieran to see if I can get a comment as to what's happened, but if you've got no internet, he's not going to see it, so yeah, who knows. Tom Holland still battling here with Seiko. It's nice to see that we have got some battles out on circuit. It is nice to see a different manufacturer fighting amongst the AMGs and indeed the Aston Martins. A lovely exit there from Holland. We run then across the start-finish line. This is the finish line. Got the start line coming up for you very, very shortly, up towards the source. Last time out, he took the outside line. This time he goes for the inside, sends it, hits the apex, and I tell you what, he's not going to get the better run because the outside line will be a little bit faster, but I believe he's got the overlap. I believe he's got his nose ahead, and Holland has made a move. That is a P7, deliciously done, beautifully done, position gain.
Yeah, really nice move from Holland. He sent it, and he almost looked like he kind of panicked halfway through it, but I think it was just the braking performance was so good in the Porsche. Seiko jumped out of the way, which, to be fair, understandable, trying to get a good exit, but now Seiko's under lots of pressure from the, that looks like, not sure who that is by. Is that Tomlinson? I think it might be. He's caught all the way up. It is Tomlinson in the owned car. He's going to go around all the way around the outside, is he? Yeah, lots of respect and room left by both drivers. They're going to go side by side through the whole chicane. Tomlinson's still got a bit of an overlap. He's not going to make it stick on this occasion. Oh, a little bit of front right to left rear contact there, but this is superb racing. This is what we want to see through the chicane. They're still side by side now as they head into Brussels, and it's finally going to resolve itself with Seiko holding on, or is it? Because Tomlinson almost getting an overlap, not quite, and that's it. Through no name. Looks like it's going to be Seiko who holds on to P8 for the time being, but Holland's just driven off into the distance after that move into turn 1. He'll be loving this. Lots
to dissect there. Holland, of course, gaining the advantage because of the battling. Tomlinson, Seiko, take a bow. You need to high-five each other later on in the showers, that's for sure. Beautiful stuff from you both. And Manders, all of a sudden, is now involved here. So we've gone from a three-way battle to another three-way battle, but with an extra driver joining in from the further back. So we've got the top 10 now, all very closely occupying, well, I say 4 drivers occupying, 4 spots between 10th and 7th position. So 1 minute we had Spider-Man making overtakes. Next minute we've got 3 drivers battling for 8th position. Lovely.
Yeah, the good thing about this battle as well is they're all pros, so they're all in the same class. It's all meaningful, which is great to see, and it looks so far, I'm going to curse it, but it's been respectful. It's been fantastic from all these guys. And now you can see Tomlinson once again right on the back of Seiko, who was sitting in a podium position and all of a sudden is looking like falling outside the top 5 here. Under all sorts of pressure as we head in towards bus stop. It's going to be a wide line from Tomlinson. That allows Nick Manders a little bit of a look down the inside, but Manders is going to be sensible here. Obviously, these guys are both owned teammates as well, so they won't want to have any unnecessary contact between those two. But it all just settles back into line, and we see them now head on to the next lap. But yes, Seiko and the Mercedes, a little bit of breathing room for the first time in a full lap. That's not going to last long though, because this is of course the long run we've seen before. Slipstream comes into effect, the Astons are quick in a straight line, but it looks like Seiko might just have enough of a gap there, Luke, heading into Eau Rouge.
Well, only have been involved with pretty much every other car on the grid, so they just want to get involved with each other. But it's nice to see they actually were running side by side and there was no contact. They have had an interesting championship, I would say, to say the very least. But as it stands right now, that was brilliant from both of them, Manders and Tomlinson. Still managing to keep with Seiko as well, whilst also battling, the door opening up because Seiko went defensive into the bus stop, and yeah, momentarily Manders went, oh, do you know what, I'm going to send my car into that gap, and then decided against it. We're on board here with Warner once again. He's got the fastest lap of the race, 15.7 seconds clear. I think he's got an Onin car in behind him as well. That's a third of them. So we've got World of Racing and Onin have got 700 cars between them on the grid. But yeah, Warner just needs to not get any track limit excursions. He's going to win this race. So this is the battle then for P2 overall in the race, but also the win for the AM. So right now, Sergi Sebastian on his debut in this championship is holding on. If Machkowski gets to the lead of this class, do I technically win my prediction? Because he's won the AMs? Or will we go for overall? You know,
well,
he was far back, to be fair though, right? He was actually like 6th, I think, overall in the qualifying, or 7th. So well.
Yeah, I mean, you allowed me to change my prediction to someone who was leading the race by 10 seconds, so I'll give you a draw if Machkowski wins his class. But yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to this battle. I've enjoyed it so far. I think it's been great. It's been respectful, and I think both of the drivers are enjoying it too. Maybe Maszkowski more so than Sebastian. It's always more fun to be the hunter rather than the hunted. But it might be about to switch here. Maszkowski gets the run, goes to the outside. They're going to be side by side as we head into Licum. In fact, Maszkowski might have the overlap as we get under brakes. He does, and he's managed to make the move stick. Can he get it stopped? Sideways, black marks all over the tarmac. There's contact, which is a shame, but it looks like Sebastian has been forced off the circuit, but manages to hold on to the position. Maszkowski now once again forces his way alongside. Maszkowski with the overlap now, heading down towards Brussels. It's going to be more side-by-side action. I can guarantee they're going to be side-by-side on the exit once again, but actually Maszkowski didn't quite get the power down as well on that outside line, and Sergi Sebastian holds on once again to P2. We finally saw some elbows out from those two there, and I think it was all good though. It was argy-bargy, but it was good stuff, and both drivers lived to fight another day. That was thoroughly enjoyable.
Yeah, that was outstanding there. Maszkowski made a little bit of a mistake in the middle of that battle. I want to see it again because there was a key moment during that battle where Maszkowski, in my opinion, has let Sebastian go. He's made a mistake and then decided you need to be slightly ahead of me, and ultimately that is what has cost him the potential chance for an overtake here. And I think that also might save him from a potential penalty. I hope the stewards look at that kindly. Here we go, we're going to get to see it. So this is going to be the key moments. We're on board with Maszkowski. Maszkowski gets a lovely run along the Kemmel Straight to look at that beautiful livery from the Mad Panda team as we run then down in towards Les Com. He's going to brake a little bit later here. It looks like he's going to get this done perfectly. He's fully ahead but runs a little bit deep, and then he struggles to get the car pinned on the apex. There's the contact. So he forces the AMG wide, then he lets him go. So he's let him go there, and then he's battling once again. So the key moment for me there, if the stewards look at that, is that he's let him go intentionally to have his nose ahead. So I think that was very, very well executed by Maszkowski, and ultimately he's lost out in that. But I think that is the first part of the first show of any kind of sportsmanship we've seen on the grid today. So that was very nice from both drivers. And well, I think the best thing about this is we might get to see it again.
Yeah, 100%. It's a similar gap heading now down to the same section of track. The next time, you can see the elevation change there, Eau Rouge and Radion. I cannot comprehend. If you've never been to Spa, you need to go. It's absolutely insane just how high this is. And the run, as we've been saying, continues uphill, down the Kemmel Straight, or up the Kemmel Straight. And yeah, it was Maszkowski really who had the elbows out on that last occasion. Let's see what happens this time though. Sebastian defending the inside. Maszkowski, he's left a gap actually down the inside. Maszkowski takes that gap with both hands, but he doesn't quite have the overlap he had last time. It's roles reversed, more contact. This time they're over the curb, very similar outcome, but they're not quite side by side. And Sebastian holds on, but Maszkowski's going to get a better exit here. No, Sebastian all under control. That was very different to the last lap, but similar levels of intensity. I'm loving this battle. Sebastian managing to hold on to the position and almost, decided to do a similar thing to Maszkowski, but I think he had more of his car in front, so just edged Maszkowski away, and that's it. Once again, same positions, which means we're going to get to see it once again on the next lap, and I just hope they can continue with this intensity, and hopefully it remains this clean as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a cheeky little replay of that as well, because I like to see that again. That was brilliant for both drivers. It is Sergi Sebastian, though, that does, importantly, keep the lead of this AM race. Again, the time that they've lost over the last 2 laps, they were 15 seconds behind. They lost 2.8 seconds with the battle that they had on the previous lap. This is a mistake there from Maszkowski. And once they next cross the timing beam, which should be very, very shortly, we'll see exactly how much time they've lost. Here we go, we're about to cross the timing beam. It's now 19 seconds. They've lost 4 seconds in the space of 2 laps. Here we go. Different roles reversed here. So you can see Sebastian opens up the corner. He left that door open for Maszkowski, then pinches into the apex. Maszkowski trying to make a kind of move there. Wasn't far enough alongside to expect any room around the outside of Les Com through the middle of it. And ultimately Sebastian holds firm down towards the bus stop chicane. And the gap's a little bit bigger this time around. But if Maszkowski can just close up, there might be that opportunity once again across the finish line. It will be the finish line, remember, the start line is the other side. It's just a bit weird at Spa on ACC. That's the GT Endurance way of doing things. We head then down towards Le Source. So Maszkowski with one slight error there has ultimately cost him the chance of maybe making a move for P2 this time around, but I'm sure we'll see it once again.
Yeah, so hard but fair racing. Lots of respect and just brilliant.
Yeah, 100% there. Could not agree more with you, John. We've now got another battle, which is just as hotly anticipated. We've got Psycho in behind Holland. They've dropped Manders now, 2.1 seconds behind in Tomlinson. I think those two must have had their own little battle. But Psycho and Holland, they had 2 laps where he basically couldn't separate them. Holland finally got himself that opportunity to make a move up into top 7. But normally, when that happens, the driver behind kind of drops away. Not the case here. Seiko is absolutely hanging on to the coattails of that Porsche and is not actually looking to get a really nice exit through the bus stop. Didn't even look to go aggressive through there. Just wanted to make sure that he gets a good exit. He is trying to set himself up for a move along the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, Seiko obviously lost those positions because he kind of got shuffled out of the pack, and that therefore put him under pressure. There was slipstream, there was everything happening against him. But clearly the pace isn't bad from Seiko because he's managed to, as you say, pull that gap back. 4/10, nothing as we head up the hill. I don't know if the Porsche is the best in a straight line. I know the Mercedes has certainly got the torque, and it's good over the curbs here, so it should be nice through Radion, nice and stable. Yeah, you can see actually both cars looking nice and stable through there. I think he's a bit too far back on this occasion, but we've got two fantastic battles to keep an eye on here. Obviously the super battle for second overall, and then this battle for the podium in the pro class. And one shout out to Tom Holland here. If he can hold on and get a podium in that Porsche, this will be the first car, either pro or am, to be on the podium that's not a Mercedes or an Aston Martin. So plenty at stake here for Holland, but he's going to have to work very hard for it indeed, as Seiko does get very close now, looking to the outside as we head into Brussels.
Yeah, and you know what, as much as it's a bit annoying that we had all that battling and drivers driving like they were Stevie Wonder in the first hour of this race, it has kind of opened up an opportunity for us to highlight some other drivers in this championship, because there are battles throughout the grid, and we're seeing one, you know, very much unfold in front of our very own eyes as we head down towards Podium. The Porsche able to brake a little bit later there, and again, it kind of evens out. It's a better car through corners, a lot more stable through corners, but it just lacks that straight line speed. That's where the Mercedes, of course, will try and get a good exit through Radion and Eau Rouge, and actually maybe on down to the run towards Blanchimont down into the bus stop chicane as well. Those two particular parts of the race circuit, but you've got to utilise your strengths, which Holland is doing perfectly well right now. A top 7. Let's have a look then at the order of the day. So Warner right now leading. It's been a race on his own. He hasn't seen another car for a good hour now. He's ahead of Sebastian, who's the lead car of the AMS. 6/10 of a difference between second and third, or battling for first spot in the AMS, because Machkowski is very close to Sebastian. A couple of laps ago, they were, you know, inseparable for 2 laps, but it seems to have sorted itself out. Paulik, who was my driver of the day last time out at Donington, he finds himself in a podium spot for the AMS right now in 3rd position. Then we've got Klaassen, who had a 10-second penalty and now is catching up to Paulik very quickly indeed. He finds himself in 5th. Then got Sudakar in 6th. Holland and Seiko, who are on board with right now, who are now being caught by Manders again, by the way. He was 2.1 seconds behind these, but isn't anymore. He now finds himself right up behind them. And then Tomlinson's dropped significantly back here, 7.1 seconds, and that top 10. And all of a sudden, Luciano Whitford, who managed to get a penalty earlier on in this race, was outside the top 10 because of a spin early in this race, maybe with an outside chance here of getting himself back up into that top 10.
This battle's been thoroughly exciting as well for the last number of laps. These drivers providing lots of entertainment, but Tomlinson's dropped off the back of it. I know he was right there, now 7 seconds behind Manders, so we've missed something there as we see some good blue flaggery from the BMW. Well done, get out of the way. But yeah, we're on board now. This great view. I love the over-the-shoulder shots of these cars, because you just see how hard the drivers are having to work as they head over the curbs. Obviously different strengths and weaknesses for these two cars, as we were mentioning. The Mercedes as well has been torquey. It's great over the curbs. It's very much a point and squirt car. You get it turned, it's a bit heavy, but then once you get that rotation, you can just nail the throttle. The Porsche obviously super with the traction, all that weight over the rear, and also just great at the medium speed corners as well. So yeah, some contrasting stuff there, but also some similar strengths in a way. They're both pretty good at punching out of the corners. But Seiko still right on the back of Holland. Beautiful view from inside Nick Manders of these two battling, and he'll be looking to pick up the scraps here if anything does go wrong. What a stunning circuit as well. Trees in the background, every single corner flows. We're seeing a bit of a look from Seiko, but no, he's backed out of that one. That's going to bring Manders back into the equation as well. Yeah, just no breathing space at all.
Yeah, definitely it's going to be an opportunity opening up here. I don't think Manders quite has the raw pace of the two in front, but if they keep fighting, it just keeps bringing him back. So there's a couple of times now where he's gone to around about 2 seconds behind and then just clawed it back up as they battle in front. So this might be another opportunity. The battle we were watching, or we were focusing on a little bit earlier on, 2nd and 3rd spot. They're now 7/8 of a second between the two of them. So right now Sebastian has really figured something out as he's keeping Machkowski at arm's length. But Manders then, underneath the rear wing of the AMG of Seiko in front, takes the outside line and decides, you know what, can't really attack too much here, but there might be an opportunity to get close enough to make that move along the Kemmel Straight. And, well, just by being in the, the rearview mirror as close as he is to Seiko, he's forced him to lose touch here with Holland a little bit. So maybe the Aston Martin can look to make a move here for a top 8.
Change of position, by the way, on the podium, because Klaassen is just past Pollock. So I was keeping an eye on the battle. It was about 2-3 tenths between them, and all of a sudden Klaassen jumped up ahead in the number 20. So maybe we can see if we can catch a replay of what happened there. But that moves Klaassen, after his fairly disastrous first half, back up onto the podium in the World of Racing Mercedes, and only 8.7 seconds behind Maszkowski. Of course, that's a big gap, but if Maszkowski and Sebastian get into another fight, lose 2 seconds a lap, which is definitely possible, Klaassen still could find himself in with a shout. There could also be an incident, of course, as well. So you never know, but he's put himself on the podium for the time being, and Pollock now, I'm sure, will be determined to get that position back.
Yeah, I'm sure he will be. I just see Kieran Prendergast has just appeared online again on Discord, so hopefully we get an answer from him as to what's happened there. By the looks of things, it looks like he's just disconnected. It's really as simple as that. But yeah, I'll wait for him to answer me and let me know, and then we can let you know in the chat, because he was absolutely flying, and then quite literally flew off of our screens entirely. We're still on board then with Manders, looking to find himself an opportunity, and actually Seiko's managed to catch back up to Holland. I think we're going to be saying this a lot over the next 35 minutes between these three. Again, a battle for the final podium position in the pro class. So this is not for nothing. I know they are currently in 9th, 8th and 7th position, but this is a battle for the final podium spot. Chris Warner leads the pros. In second spot is 6th overall Sudakar, and then Holland in that Porsche is in that final podium position. So this is very important.
Manders just missing the apex there, losing a little bit of ground, but that gives Seiko the breathing room. He doesn't have to look in his mirror. He can just push up towards the back of Holland once again, and it's a good spot to be in the slipstream. Of course, you do have an overtaking opportunity at bus stop. Problem being, it just leads to a whole host of other overtaking opportunities over the next few corners. But Seiko looking racy. I'd say that gap's now surely down to about a 10th. On the back of that Porsche, pulls to the outside. Seiko making a move, under braking, or is he just going to try and set this one up? He's going to go in wide, he's going to cut back. Pretty good defensive driving in the middle of the road from Holland, though. Seiko doesn't take advantage, and all of a sudden Nick Manders is back in the mix as well. It's just endless,
right.
toing and froing between them like an accordion. And Manders, he's not going to go for the move now, but we'll see it, I'm sure, on the way up towards Lecombe.
Yeah, I just think he's tried to open up an opportunity there on Holland, and ultimately he's just left the door open for Manders to get really close. Like, he's slowed himself down too much, and now he's given Manders a real opportunity. So Maszkowski, 2 tenths now behind Sebastian. So has he gone and spent a couple of laps just basically just cooling those tyres down to then be able to attack Sebastian for a couple of laps again? Did he just go over the limit a touch while he was battling last time round? Well, we're about to see another battle. It's back again for the podium spot in the pro class, and well, a mission aborted there from Seiko, and I think he might lose the position from Manders as well. He does. So he tried to make the move, decided to abort it. I think that's better than staying side by side and potentially causing an accident. Here's the battle then for what would be P2 overall, but the lead of the AM class. The gap has been left around the outside. Can you keep that overlap through the mid part of the corner? Well, you can't. Sebastian holds firm once again, and it's a delightful defensive display here right now from Sebastian. A debut in the series, and well, he is putting on an absolute show right now. Yeah,
absolutely right. Superb stuff. Into bus stop as well, getting a bit close, but Maszkowski doesn't want to force the issue, wants to keep it nice and clean. 2:19 on that lap, and that's the thing. So Klaassen now obviously been released by Pollock, his teammate. We've heard from Steve that there wasn't really an overtake, it was more of a letting through from one World of Racing car to another, so I'm sure Klaassen will have appreciated that one. And what it does now is it unleashes Klaassen to try and hurl his way towards the back of these two. And obviously I don't think the pace would be enough in a normal circumstance, but with the battling we're seeing at the front here, anything can happen. We might see an incident, or we can see them just losing second after second. Maszkowski not quite close enough on this occasion. No, he's going to hit the brakes nice and early on the way into Lecombe, so no late surprises there. Sebastian holds on, but we're now seeing a replay, and this is, okay, the battle from before, so this is Holland and Seiko. Seiko did get a run on the outside, late on the brakes, but it's just too late, couldn't turn in, couldn't get it stopped, and as you said, Luke, took the safe route across the runoff area. It was pretty close on rejoining, I'll be honest, with Manders, but all fair and fine there, and Seiko will live to fight another day. Holland, meanwhile, maintains his podium position, with Manders now right behind him.
Yeah, you're not wrong. there's just battling starting to sort of bubble up here, and with 30 minutes to go, if you battle too hard, you're going to kill your tyres. It's as simple as that. So the last sort of 5-10 minutes of this race could be very interesting for that reason alone. So yeah, just keep an eye on everything. We've got the battle then. This is Seiko in behind. Now Manders and indeed Holland. I tell you what, I think Machkowski and Sebastian are also very, very close as well, a little bit further up the road. So there's just, yeah, a nice battle for podium positions and wins.
Ooh, change of position.
And yes, Machkowski has got it done. So he finally did get it done. They're now making their run down towards Blanchimont. It is Machkowski who finally gets into the lead. Look how much time they've lost, though, to Warner. They've lost about 7 seconds in total by the battling they've had. Machkowski has got the pace of Warner, that's for sure. I think Sebastian probably has as well, the way they've been racing today. But ultimately, they've lost so much time because of the battling. But Machkowski now has to show if he has got that significant pace over Sebastian and whether Sebastian can stay with that Aston Martin.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now that the swap positions, it's all about the slipstream. And yeah, okay, so we've got Sebastian defending, okay. And now I wonder if there was a mistake. I think it must have been later in the lap because we think they just swapped positions. Oh, no, it's not. It's a mistake from Sebastian. So he's not a robot. He did make a mistake. And Machkowski took advantage of it, absolutely, and made that move stick as they headed into Brussels. So yeah, obviously the timing screens took a bit to keep up, but it was a mistake needed in the end. It wasn't a move for Machkowski, mistake for Sebastian, and through he goes. Didn't need a second chance. And this is what you were talking about. Look, now that we've got the roles reversed, will Sebastian be able to put on as much of a fight as Machkowski was able to do now that it's him in the slipstream? I think there's a good chance of it, but once again, we're gonna learn a lot about what Sebastian's capable of in these next few minutes.
100%, and if you're not close enough to make a move, you're just got to try and force the car in front of you to be defensive, because around this circuit you just lose so much time by going offline even slightly. But right now, as it stands, Machkowski just looks like he's got Sebastian at arm's length and isn't really under too much pressure. So this battle seems to be over for the time being. We've got the battle again a bit further back, battling for that final podium spot in the pro class. Holland's now got a different car to contend with. He's had to deal with Seiko for about 5 or 6 laps. Now he's got the Aston Martin of Manders, and Manders momentarily pulled alongside. Should get a really nice exit here, and this for sure is not over. A little bit close for my liking in terms of where he wants to be through Rally No Rouge, but actually the torque of the Porsche, the initial acceleration, gets the Porsche a little bit further up the road. But now this is where it counts into the higher gears, is where the Aston Martin is going to chew up that space, no problem whatsoever. And as we go then along the Kemmel Straight, here it comes. Here is the big squeeze. He's going to move out to the left-hand side. He's going to have that outside line in towards Lace-Com. Manders looking to take that final podium spot. There's a little bit of door banging between the two of them. They both run wide. Manders is momentarily going to get the position. He'll be asked to give that back for sure. And I tell you what, I think the biggest winner here, it is going to be Seiko. So Seiko's back involved. But look now who's slowly catching up. Luciano Whitver, who was battling at the sharp end of this race. I would be very surprised if we didn't see that World of Racing not only get involved in this battle, but actually get ahead of all three. There is no way that Manders keeps that position, by the way. He's enjoying it right now, but there is no way that position is able to be kept.
Yeah, the only thing I could see, the reason for him keeping it would be if he was arguing he might have been forced off circuit and he's just waiting for the stewards to tell him what to do. But, you know, we saw it, you know, Holland tried to defend on the inside, ran it as wide as he could get away with, but it was Manders who didn't make the corner. So you're right, he needs to give that back. If he had made the circuit, he would have been okay. But then of course he might have been hit by Holland as well. So interesting to see what happens with that one. And yeah, Whitvet, obviously we know how quick Whitvet is all season, and obviously his pedigree across multiple sims over the years. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a Jaws-like situation there. And all of the battling going on for P7 has just completely brought Whitvet back into play, and they're probably now going to be regretting it just that little bit. But Machkowski looking still under control. He's 4/10 ahead of Sebastian, so it's not like he's dropping him, let's be honest. It's still close enough that Sebastian could have a say in this. But the problem is Sebastian's going to need to get that close before the run down towards Eau Rouge and Radion, rather than after the chicane. You know, he can't use the slipstream to get to 4/10. He needs to start at 4/10, and then we could be talking heading into the chicane. But this race is far from over for the win in AM. Definitely over for the win in Pro.
Yeah, I think there's a world where Sebastian might be doing what Machkowski did earlier on and just kind of just chilling for a little bit and putting himself in a position where he can really attack with better tyre pressures, and the tyre temperature would have gone down as well. significantly. So I think Sebastian might be in that sort of phase right now. We're on board with Luciano Whitmer, who is closing up. I'm sure we're going to see a replay of that incident between Manders and Holland. I don't think there's any contact. I think Holland squeezed him out wide to try and pinch him towards the apex of the second part of Lake Com. And ultimately, Manders just went, well, you know what, I'm going to just take the exit strategy here. And then kept hold of the position. I'd be very surprised if that is, if he's going to be able to keep that position. Very surprised. But who knows? We have only seen it once, and my eyes aren't the greatest these days. But we've got Thomas Holland in behind Manders.
There we go.
Well, there we go. He's been told to give it back for sure. There we go. So Thomas Holland does indeed move back up. He's been told to give one position up. I think that's fair enough. And fair play to him. Do you know what? I think that was the right decision. Stay out in the lead and then wait to get told something new. I tell you, Thomas Holland, though, makes a mistake. And I tell you what, as quickly as he's just given up that position, he's going to go up the inside down towards Pouon. And I tell you what, it's very, very difficult to keep the car around the outside here. I think you'll find, well, there's contact then between the two of them. But that's an absolute freebie for Seiko. Luciano Whitford's going to get involved here. Manders has given back the position effectively to Thomas Holland. So I don't think there'll be any action to do with that because no one really gained from it, apart from Seiko. Seiko, though, didn't have to get involved in terms of contact. There's going to be no steward's inquiry into that one. No. Freebies galore as Manders now runs off wide once again. Another replay between the two of them. We're seeing the original incident where Manders was told to give the position back. So again, gets the overspeed, moves out to the left-hand side. We've then got on the inside Thomas Holland. We get a lovely pan view of both of them as they both run wide. There is no contact there. That's why he was told to give it back. There was no contact. You know, fair enough. He stayed in the lead as long as he possibly could, and ultimately then giving back the position. It's kind of cost him a bit of time. Thomas Holland then makes a mistake. He was almost excited to be back in the lead of this group. And while Seiko said to both of them, well, if neither of you want to be the lead of this group, I'll give it a go. And ultimately, that's where we're at right now.
I think you've summed it up. I mean, yeah, with that one, to be fair though, Holland didn't exactly leave full cars width on the outside, so I don't know. But I think Manders was never going to make the corner, which is where it comes down. If Manders could have made the corner, and then Holland had, you know, then he had been forced because of Holland rather than his own overspeed, then we'd be talking about a different situation. However, Manders clearly knew he was at fault for that second one. He's running wide and he's flashed to apologise, so fair play there. And we're probably going to see a replay of that now. So it looks like Manders down the inside. He just can't keep the car turned in. He's pushed him wide, and that's why we were seeing flashing. It wasn't anger, it was apology. And I think Whitvit's flashing might have been anger because Whitvit kind of got the door closed in there. I thought he was going to take two positions. He ended up having a bit of a squeaky bum time there, and thankfully lived to fight another day. But yeah, that's obviously allowed Seiko to go. What's happened here? Hang on a minute, we're missing some cars here. Whitvit's dropped off a little bit further back. Maybe the gap's just got bigger. It's Manders has gone.
So Whitford and I think Whitford and Manders have had something go on here because a loss of 8 seconds now for Manders. He's down to 11th spot. Whitford is up. Of course, you said he's lost a bit of ground to these two in front, so there must have been something between those two. But yeah, very interesting. Back to your point about where he wasn't left any room. It depends whether you count the curb as track. So if you keep two wheels on that curb and you don't get a warning for a slowdown, that could be considered the racetrack. So I think enough room was left. I don't believe you get a warning for running onto that. Another replay. So we're about to see what happens here. So there's Whitford in behind in the AMG. We've got the Aston Martin. He turns in too early there. And oh dear, that's a big one. That is a big, big hit. And yeah, just set the corner up wrong there. Pressure from behind. Probably looking in the mirrors, trying to get as good a run up there as possible to not then lose the position. The Whitford turns in a bit too early, goes in a little bit too tight, loses too much speed, tries to open up. But once the car's loaded one way and you open up the car the other way through Radion and Eau Rouge, ultimately you become a bit of a passenger as the car slides, and that way you can see into the wall you go, and yeah, maybe needs a couple of teeth replacement.
Yeah, that's game over for Manders. That was a big, big hit, and it shows you how quickly things can change. I mean, just a second ago, he was looking like he was making the move for a podium position, and then a lap later, in the wall hard, and it's all gone to pot. So yeah, really unfortunate.
I've give Onid a bit of stick over the last couple of races, and I think, you know, it's probably deserved. I will say one thing though, Manders deserves a lot of credit because he was part of some really, really nice battles. Again, they went over the limit a touch, but there was nothing really in terms of contact that you would say was malicious or bad, and provided us with some entertainment. So credit where credit's due. Fair play, Manders. You gave us some real entertainment today.
Yeah, absolutely. Lines were crossed in terms of the racing, but not in terms of the fairness. I think, you know, obviously when you're racing hard, that's the thing. These drivers don't always want to make contact when they do. Don't always want to push drivers off. It happens in racing because everyone's on the limit of grip. That's its own nature. But Holland will be looking now once again at the back of Seiko's Mercedes. He'll be looking to get that podium position back. Whitbit only half a second behind, so this is going to get tasty, I can guarantee you. Hit the brakes just as you reach that first curb, get turned in, Seiko's going to hold the inside. Holland unable to make the corner quite there, running a bit over the curb, and that's going to bring Whitbit back into play. Seems to have gathered it all up, and yeah, they're pretty much line astern again, but it's kind of dropped Holland back into the clutches slightly of Luciano and the Mercedes, and that's definitely going to cost him out because it's deep on the brakes from Holland. Whitbit down the inside, not quite fully alongside, but a little bit of a touch, and through goes Luciano Whitbit, and there you go, one mistake from Holland, and suddenly, or two mistakes I should say, he's down to 5th.
Yeah, again, there's a little bit of contact there, but you get a penalty for that. You just sort of pack up and go home, to be honest, in my opinion. It is what it is. He ran wide, mistake, Whitbit took full advantage, and now he can go off to chase down Seiko. So Holland drops back, but I'm sure we're going to see more from Holland. Him being overtaken doesn't deter him from the battle. He'll come back stronger. Sebastian here, though, is in a little bit of trouble, I think. Machkowski finds another couple of tenths. Going to be out of that slipstream, and I think Machkowski finally will be able to move towards getting the win of the class. Here is now Luciano Whitbit trying to deal with Seiko. So Seiko's had to deal with Holland for the last couple of laps, and now it's another car for him to deal with. So he's had Manders, who he's had to overtake. He's had to overtake Holland as well. Obviously, those making mistakes, but now it's his turn to be the leader of the pack and start doing some defensive work. He runs a little bit wide through Blanchard, a lot better line there from Luciano Whitbit. Whitbit, though, will take the outside line. He won't try and make a move. I think he'll try and set this up for Lake Com, actually. There's a little bit of a mistake there from Seiko. You can see Holland closing up there nicely. And look at this, the gap is absolutely nothing between them. I think you'll see Whitbit go left and then slowly go towards the right here and towards the braking zone. Actually, no, it's been covered off nicely from Seiko, but Seiko's going to be slow on the exit as they head up towards Radion and Eau Rouge. Two AMGs battling for position. I think the only thing that might save Seiko here is that Whitbit is a little bit too close. They grazed the wall on the right-hand side, and now it's Radion and Eau Rouge to deal with. A nice line there taken from Whitbit, taking the shortest possible route, but actually Seiko has defended that nicely as well with a really nice run over the top. I'm not sure they are going to close up significantly enough. Thomas Holland, in 9th position. I'm not sure he's quite close enough to take any kind of part in this battle. As I'll say that, he's actually side by side with Whitbit. We didn't see that coming. He's not quite going to get involved yet, but I think this battle is about to get even more spicy. Seiko, right now, that's why he's defending the inside line, has really been the attacker or the aggressor in these battles, but now having to do defensive work, this is very, very difficult indeed. And who have they caught up with in front there? Is that Bat Marcus? Yes, it's Bat Marcus. Yeah. It's BMW. And who's that Aston Martin up ahead? Is that Manders? Is that Manders again, but a lap down?
Yeah, it could now be
a battle for the lead of this pack again.
Yeah, this is it looks like Manders getting out the way, but Whitbit's not quite going to do it on the outside into Pouon. Basically what happened there, Luke, was Whitbit made a mistake. He missed the apex through Radion, which cost him loads of time, but the problem was Seiko also made a mistake, so it didn't look like either of them had made a mistake, because they both made that mistake. So I was thinking, I wonder where Holland is in all of this, and then all of a sudden, there he is, fully alongside, but couldn't quite take advantage of it. But I tell you what, dinner served. Whitbit is starving at the moment. He's all over the back of that Mercedes. Obviously neutral in terms of the car choices between the two, so they'll have the same strengths. Maybe a different setup though on both cars, but Whitbit's got the experience, he's got the results so far this season that tell me he is eventually going to make this move stick on Seiko. It all just comes down to how well Seiko can try and hold on.
Yeah, Panataponkul, he's just got himself a penalty for a unsafe rejoin. Which I'd like to say that's the first one of the season. It definitely isn't. Been an interesting season for the BMW driver, that's for certain. Seiko holding on to that inside line, and Luciano Whitbit trying to set up exactly what he did previously. And on the exit of the bus stop chicane, he wasn't able to do it perfectly because he had a Porsche that would take full advantage if he did. He would have been very slow on the exit. But as it stands, these three are in exactly the same order they were last time around. Through the hairpin they will go. And, well, are we about to see Seiko lose a spot?
Not sure it's going to happen on this particular lap. I think it's more looking like Holland on the back of Whitbit, actually. But, I mean, Holland's taken a lot of curb there. And, yeah, he's got a great run on the exit of Radion. He's going to be in the slipstream. Obviously, Whitbit will get a little bit of a tow from the Mercedes in front. So that should nullify the difference somewhat. But Holland's still going to have a good run. He ducks to the right, ducks to the left. Whitbit is going to go defensive, though, as we head into Lecum. On the brakes. but Whitvet hits the apex. Lovely little slide there, and Holland just doesn't have the free real estate to actually take his momentum forward, and he slots in behind once again. And it's not the first time actually through bus stop we've seen, you know, the driver that's second in a train of 3 try and kind of set one up for the exit, but in doing so actually just slow themselves up a lot and then bring in the car behind. It's quite interesting to see that. But you know, Whitvet, I'm sure, will be back on the back of this other Mercedes in no time at all at this rate.
Well, I can confirm that Manders has rage quit from the server. He just also posted that he's not happy with the decision about giving a position back. So, yeah, that's why you'll see his name disappear off the list. As we see in the background, Thomas Holland off traversing towards, I believe, Zolder. There, out the exit of Puon.
Whitvet keeping the pressure on. I don't think Seiko's going to have a breather for the rest of this race. Whoever's in that third spot is going to be under pressure. But saying that, I think to be honest, if Whitvet can get that third spot, I don't see him looking back. I can see him managing to drive away just based on what we've seen before. I obviously hope, you know, could be proven wrong, but you can see now Holland's made that mistake and he's dropped back, so he's now comfortably in 5th position. We'll have to watch for Tomlinson coming up behind him. Seiko still hanging on for dear life. Sudakar, by the way, we've not mentioned him in ages. He's miles up the road in second. I think about 43 seconds ahead or something ridiculous. As we now see Seiko defending the inside line, and Whitvet's going to go for it on the outside. So this time he's going to try and do it, and instead of cutting back, he's going to stick to the outside. Beautiful camera work here as Whitvet takes the position. Beautiful move. Didn't go for the cutback like he had previously. Surprised Seiko by holding it around the outside. He had the grip, he had the confidence. Nothing Seiko could do. Superb stuff. And Whitvet now moves into the podium spot. Will he lose it again? It's not great through La Source though. Good exit from Seiko. It's not quite over. This might be Seiko's one and only opportunity.
Yeah, down towards Radio No Rouge once again. And Seiko, like you said, I think he has to get this done now. Otherwise, Whitvet will just jolly off into the distance again.
Oh, he's missed his apex.
Yeah, there we go. It's done and dusted. I think Whitvet's going to hold on to this position again. Credit to the camera angles there. It's a delightful bit of camera work indeed for that overtake for Luciano Whitvet. Whitvet now does have that final podium position. He's up to 7th overall in this race. And as it stands, yeah, I think if you just signed up for this race, you're looking at a top 10. There are only, I believe, 14 people left, maybe 15 people left. Yeah, not ideal.
Steve should be spotting the fact that he knew Whitvet was going to go for the outside there rather than the inside. None of us knew that.
No, it's a good point. It's just, I don't know. It's just rare that you get something right, but, you know, we'll give him credit. Yeah, we both went silent there, didn't we, John? Because we did have Steve just tell us he was a pro driver there, and we were both a little bit gobsmacked. That is definitely not the case. I am very glad that you guys can't hear him, because some of the stuff coming out, I believe he might be drinking on the job.
He did just compliment me, I promise. He did just say something nice about me. But none of you heard it.
Me, so I'll keep throwing him under the bus. Warner still leads the race, by the way. We've not seen him for a while, but he is out there, and he leads by 24.8 seconds, 25 seconds to Krzysztof Maczkowski, which is an Apex 1-1-2. These were leading the championship coming into today, and well, they are pretty much going to win the championship, I would say. I find it very difficult to believe that anyone's going to close that gap before the end of the season. Sergi Sebastian on his debut will get a overall podium P3, and it looks like he's going to get a P2 in the AM class as well. So for me, Warner's been exceptional, but I'm going to give Sebastian my vote for driver of the day. Klaassen, who has had a penalty, I think every single round so far, has managed to battle back into a top 3 for the AMs. We've got Paulik, who was my driver of the day last time round. He's currently in 5th position. It's nice we're getting to look at all of these cars, actually. He's 8.3 seconds then back from Klaassen. Then we've got the second of our pro cars, Sudakar for World of Racing. He is in 6th position overall, but in 2nd in the pro class. Then we've got Luciano Whitvet, who has had to just battle back from the depths of hell today, ultimately involved in a couple of incidents earlier on in the race. One where he got a penalty, which was justly deserved. But sorry, I don't believe it's justly deserved, but that is, I'm not a race steward. They have more angles to look at, but he's had to battle back from that, and he is currently in that podium spot. We've got Seiko, who's currently 4th in the pro race, 8th overall, who's had a hellacious battle over the last half an hour and put on some great entertainment. We've got Thomas Holland, who's taken a break from filming one of the Spider-Man movies that are out there today. He's in 9th position as it stands overall, but top 5 in the pro class. Then we've got Tomlinson, who was momentarily involved in the battle up front, but he is going to get himself a top 10 as it stands. A bit further back then in the Mercedes, we've got Petrosian in that number 33. Heading over Radion and O'Roos now along the Kemmel Straight. Then we've got Farrell, who was at the sharp end earlier on in this race, getting involved. He's currently in P12 overall, in 6th position in the AM class. Then we've got Draper, who is a couple of laps down, but he finds himself 7th in the AM class, 13th overall. Then we've got Davies, who is, as it stands, in 7th position, 14th overall. He's 7th in the Pro class. And then our final driver, I believe, who's going around the circuit. Actually, no, I believe we've got 2 more, actually. We have got Panas Punkel, who is in 15th position. I think Woodrow, is he still going around? He is, but he hasn't done his mandatory pit stop by the looks of things, which is very odd indeed. So he'll get a penalty at the end of this race, which calculated, normally it's about 40 seconds, but calculating it because of the long endurance pit lane that we have here at Spa, he will probably be given about 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that won't affect anything, because what's obviously happened is he's taken his pit stop outside of the window. Whether, I think Woodrow, he hit problems earlier. I don't think we caught when. I mean, we saw him spin, but we didn't see him. Oh yeah, did we see him in the wall?
Yeah, he had one incident where he was spinning around, and then he had one where he was in a wall. So he's had 2 big ones today.
I forgot about the wall one, but Woodrow obviously would have needed to pit to repair his car from that, probably outside the window, forgot about his pit stop, but at the end of the day, he's going to finish 16th regardless. And that's the thing, if you keep on going in this race, the attrition's been pretty extreme. We're only looking at 12 cars that are still in a competitive position. 13th is a couple of laps down, so it really is big points up for grabs here just for keeping it clean. And that's what Spa can do to you sometimes. We've seen lots of intense battles, we've seen a lot of big crashes, and if you were able to just keep your nose clean, keep on putting down those laps, you're going to be picking up a top 7. But Apex looking far better than that. Chris Warner going to lead home. Obviously another double win for Apex 1 coming up here. Last time I was in the commentary box for the Silverstone 500, it was also an Apex double win in Pro and Am, so I'm obviously a bit of a good luck charm for the team. But it looks like it's going to be the second one of the season, and Warner just completely calm, collected, 25 seconds ahead of Maszkowski. They make it look really quite simple, but I bet you Maszkowski has had a lot of fun today. After the incident earlier, he's just been working his way back up through. He's managed to get past Sebastian, managed to get past everybody else, and I'm sure he will have had a thoroughly enjoyable run to the lead in Am.
Yeah, I think if you ask him now, he'd be like, yeah, that was fun. I think if you asked him any point during that escapade he's had today, probably not so much. So yeah, right now all the work's worth it, but during it would have been a sweaty occasion, in all fairness. Had to work very, very hard today. Credit though to him. I believe if he didn't get involved in the incident earlier on, he would have had better track position, and I think he would have been able to have a fight actually with his teammate. Whether he actually had the pace outright to beat Warner today, maybe not. I think Warner has proved his absolute pace has been the best out of everybody. I do want to give a shout out to Sebastian again. Sergi Sebastian, it is his debut today in that Mad Panda car, and has been exceptional. It's not like an accident. It's not a happy accident that he's managed to find himself high up the order. Of course, there are drivers that have had incidents. There are drivers who've had technical issues. But ultimately, Sebastian, when asked the questions from Maszkowski for a good chunk of about 45 minutes, had every single answer that was needed from him. But ultimately, Maszkowski just had one question too many, if you like, one move too many up towards Les Combes, and it was by the barest of margins the mistake, by the way. It was maybe a couple of millimetres where he just didn't turn right on the exit of Les Combes, and ultimately just got hooked onto the curb and left that door open for Maszkowski to take advantage. But I want to give a big shout out to him. I think he deserves all the flowers in the world. Klaassen, who has been involved in his own little battle today, making his way back up into that podium spot. You've got to give a lot of credit, because he could have put his head down and gone, do you know what, I'm not going to bother. He actually is live right now as well, Martin Klaassen, so he's live streaming his race. Maybe you want to go say hello and check out his point of view, say well done. Paulik, my driver of the day last time round, just kind of kept himself out of trouble and finds himself in a top 5. Sudakar, again, another driver, just kept himself out of trouble, to be honest. Whitford has been in, but if there's something involved today, Whitford's been in it. Seiko, Holland and Tomlinson have also been dragged along within that battle. So yeah, lots of stories in today's race. A lot of drivers maybe not having the best of feeling. Half the grid, I would say, actually have left today feeling not too positive about how things have gone. But in terms of the positive that we could take away from this, John, there's been a lot of action. It's been pretty easy to commentate.
Oh, 100%. It never gets dull in a race like this, and Spa really does. The British GT Esports Cup rarely does too, but this has been a lovely combination of both things, even though it's a 2-hour race as well, so no chance to reset the grid, or no rain, no safety car, but it's just been superb throughout. It's finally, I'd say, beginning to calm down now. Obviously, as we expected might be the case, Whitvet is driven away from Seiko. Obviously, Sebastian just a couple of tenths a lap shy of Maszkowski in terms of ultimate pace, and you can see there another couple of tenths added, 1.7 seconds between the two of them. Interesting, Sebastian is actually going to lead home, I think it's 5 consecutive World of Racing cars. I know that there's the Panda livery on that car, but it is World of Racing. It's Klassen, Pollock, Sudakar and Whitvet, all the World of Racing Mercedes team, so there's 5 of them running from 3rd down to 7th. That's a great performance from those guys. Kind of sums up their season, really. It feels like those cars have filled those sorts of positions behind maybe an Apex 1 car, maybe a Brabham if it ever finishes. So far in other races, it's kind of been the story of the season, but you've got to say it's a good, consistent performance from that outfit. They've done really good.
Yeah, 3 teams stick out to me. You're right. Brabham, of course, they're the team that if there's a mistake out there, they kind of make it, unfortunately, whether it be their fault or whether it be a technical issue. You know, these things can't be helped. That's sim racing. You know, a technical issue is effectively an engine blowing, isn't it, in real life? That's the only way we could really sum that up. You know, whether it be internet connection or something going wrong with your equipment. And Apex 1 have been, you know, maybe equal to them in terms of pace, maybe just a couple of hundreds shy of the pace of what Brabham being able to achieve, but they've always put themselves in that position to take advantage of other people's errors. So if there was an error from the quicker guys, they were there to take full advantage. I would say in round 2, Warner was just exceptional, just absolutely flying. So, you know, can't take that away from him, and very much like today, got himself into the lead, and I don't think anyone was going to stop him today. Maszkowski being, you know, the dream AM for Warner to have, he's just been backing him up with that. And then I would say World of Racing, of course, it's easier to say them because they've got so many, you know, cars on the grid, but ultimately they perform very, very well in terms of adversity. You know, Woodrow, who has had a bit of a stinker, if we're completely honest, has still stuck around, is still going to finish this race. And, you know, as much as it's not going to be a podium, it's not going to be a race win, I think sometimes you've got to celebrate people making it to the finish line, not letting anything deter them. 6 laps down and still out there driving. I think the same can be said for Panis, Aponkal. It's more to do with raw pace, I think, the position that they're in, but again, still making it to the finish line where so many other people have not been able to do so. So yeah, there's credit to give to teams at the front, but I think everybody today who's managed to get to that finish line deserves a little pat on the back.
Absolutely, yeah. Even for Woodrow, you know, as you talk about him, he's still getting points, for 8th position in the pro class, so it's still a decent point. I think we get points today, though, for Ryan. Yeah, I think we would if we just jump out quickly in the car now, do a few laps. We'll get some points. One other thing I was gonna mention, if I can actually remember what it was, because it just literally escaped me immediately after I started talking about it. Oh yes, Team SGSS Racing. Only 5 minutes to go. They've had an absolute nightmare. Wilf Paduano, obviously pole position, and we saw his teammate as well, which was Sebastian Erdmann, get a drive-through straight away off the start. So we haven't seen Erdmann's name since then, and Paduano obviously just went flying backwards pretty quickly, not necessarily due to his fault, just kind of getting involved in lots of battles and being out of the rhythm. And then we saw that massive crash heading up through Eau Rouge and Radion. So I have to say, SGSS probably the worst race for those guys. So much started with such high potential for a good result, and it's just ended terribly. So they're probably going to lose a lot. I mean, I say worst race for them. Let's talk about Brabham Esports. I mean, in the other rounds, as you say, they've been super, super quick and competitive. They've probably been the class of the field, and you just can't say that for this round for the first time, because yes, they've had the bad luck once again, but Warner was leading anyway. He was going to win that race for sure ahead of Elvin. Okay, Prendergast was leading AM, so we definitely could have seen a win for Kieran if he didn't have his disconnect, but it's nice to see Apex 1, who now have, as you say, probably a hand and 4 fingers on the trophy. It's nice to see them coming out here and fully destroying the field on merit. Yeah,
100%. Another team I think we should probably mention is Orion. Like Van Veen and De Lange, they were both in pretty strong positions, weren't they? And they're currently 6th in the championship. They could have, with Brabham both not finishing, they would have moved up to maybe 5th. Team SGSS, as you're saying, they're in 4th position currently as it stands. Sorry, they're actually 5th. Orion are 5th. So they could have maybe moved up to a top 3 today, but both of those aren't in the race anymore. So just finishing is absolutely massive. This, you know, World of Racing, with, you know, Woodrow still being in and amongst it and around it, he's going to get those points. It's going to help them stay in 2nd position overall in this championship. But yeah, Apex One are a team, they keep just getting not only finishes, but real big finishes, big results.
Really big day for Sudakar as well, who currently in pro standings is sitting in 5th position, but he's got Woodrow just ahead of him. He should jump ahead of Woodrow with obviously the points difference. Then you've got Elvin Smith, who's had another DNF, so that's going to be a major drop for Elvin. And then Whitfit's the next one up the road, who is, okay, 1 position behind Sudakar, but I think it's been a really, really good race for him as well. And we could see, I'm not exactly sure on the points total, we'll need to kind of calculate it a little bit later on, but there's a good chance that Sudakar could jump up as high as 3rd in the pro standings after this one.
Yeah, that's just a case of making sure you finish, right? It's just get those points. It doesn't, I look back at last season in Formula 3, in real life, the average finishing position of the champion was 5th. So just get those finishes. That only popped into my head because I was talking about it yesterday, by the way. So it's not something I just randomly plucked out of the air. But yeah, championships are built on consistency. Obviously winning races help, but consistency is, if you don't have any issues, you're going to put yourself in a good position to be there or thereabouts. As we head onto the final lap of the race, Chris Warner once again looking to get another victory, which for my money puts him at 3 victories for the season if he manages to get himself across the line, and merely about 3/4 of a lap to go, and he's going to get that job done. And also, like you just said, pretty much puts at least one hand onto that trophy.
Yeah, textbook stuff. I'm also really impressed. We've not seen many stop and go penalties for the drivers from track limits, so that's really, really good. We've obviously got one for Law that's been there for a while, but other than that, I've not seen any stop go penalties. We have a yellow flag on circuit as well, so let's just keep one eye on the timing screens to make sure that's not one of our lead contenders, but it's now gone away, so I think we're okay. Obviously, this is the one and only away round of the season, so we're going to be back in the UK for the remainder. Unfortunately, Luke, you're not going to be joining us for the next one at Snetterton, but it's going to be 3 consecutive weeks of British GT Esports Cup action. We've got a double header at Snetterton, 2 one-hour races, similar to the format we had the season opener at Oulton, and then we're going to end at Brands Hatch for a 2-hour special, a bit like this one at Spa here, to determine our champion, or sorry, unless anything goes majorly wrong, probably crown our champion Chris Warner and our AM champion Mash Kovsky. But there's still time for things to go wrong, of course. We've seen it with Brabham, it could happen to anyone else. We're only halfway through the season, but this has been, I would say, probably the biggest turning point, especially from a driver's championship standing rather than a team's. It's been a really major turning point in the season.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And you say you've heard the last of me. I have access to the commentary box in Discord, guys. So who knows? I may just turn up out of the blue and just say random words. No, I promise I won't. Steve will beat me up, so I don't want that to happen. Right, Warner coming down towards Blanchimont for the very final time. And well, he went from 2nd on the grid up to the lead. And from there, he has not looked back. Lap 1 was the key lap for Warner. And yeah, realistically, apart from that, he hasn't really been under any pressure. Not to take anything away, this has been a stellar performance from Warner. Very much deserves all of the plaudits that he will take. Not only will he be leading the championship, still he'll be leading the team championship with Apex One, because it is a 1-2 for them both. Congratulations to Chris Warner. He will take round 4. He will take the race here at Spa. 2 hours. It's taken him, but he's done it quicker than everybody else. Fair play to him. And well, very much the same livery, different number. It is Krzysztof Maczkowski, who I tipped to actually go out there and win the race outright. I think I'll take it in terms of him winning the AM race, considering he was so far down on the grid. But once he managed to make the overtakes on Sebastian, he managed to hold on to the race victory and pick up the checkered flag. Congratulations to him. But it is a P1, 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 P2 for Apex One. So they win both races, but they also get a 1-2 overall. Very impressive indeed, John.
Absolutely. That's the 3rd win of the season for Warner and the 4th win in AM for Maszkowski, and both of these guys just extending out those points. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. Look, I'm looking forward to hearing, hopefully, from some of the drivers, because especially the first half was just crazy. Let's be honest. There was some action, there was some controversy for sure, but the racing throughout the field retained the excitement throughout. To be honest, in the second half of the race, we had those great battles for the midfield for that podium spot in AM, and we also had the superb debut performance from probably one of the drivers of the day, Sebastian. So yeah, good stories throughout, and I'm sure the drivers will now appreciate the rest before next week's event at Snetterton.
Yeah, 100%. I tried to tell the story of the top 14 that were in the race, or top 16, sorry, who managed to finish the race. And yeah, Sergi Sebastian was definitely one of those drivers that you look back on and go, yeah, as much as it was a debut, that was a very, very good performance amongst some very, very good drivers. But Apex won. They're the two, realistically, that are, coming away with the biggest smiles. I think we've got to give a shout out to Luciano Whitver, albeit he made a mistake earlier on that he got a penalty for. He's come from, I think he was his lowest. He was 18th position. But, at one point it looked like it was going to be a struggle to get just into that top 10. We're going to have a battle for that top 10. But ultimately managed to get up into a top 7. Very impressive indeed. As we've got some highlights here, this is when Elvin Smith was still in the races of the battle, right at the sharp end of the grid. And this is where Klaassen actually just drove through the back of Elvin, and ultimately that was the beginning of the end for the driver who probably has had the most raw pace out of everybody, as we see another version of World of Racing versus Brabham here.
Yeah, this was another key moment, it looked like at the time. This was Klaassen losing position to Prendergast for what was at that point a pretty solid lead in the AM class for Kieran Prendergast, but unfortunately another disconnect saw him retire, and this was his teammate Elvin's retirement, which came first. Just no brakes heading into La Source, straight into the tire wall, big hit, and that was his race over. So yeah, nightmare for Brabham, also a nightmare for Law. Straight across, full speed, tries to turn in for the corner, so not sure what on earth was going on there. And this was probably the best battle for me of the race. This was, of course, Sebastian versus Maszkowski for the win in the AM class, and this was the move where Maszkowski got all the way around the outside. I can't remember if this was the move that decided. No, it was a mistake in the end, wasn't it? So Maszkowski defending on the inside, then runs a little bit wide, makes contact with Sergi Sebastian and has to give that spot back. But it was fantastic. This was the first of 3 key moments at that section of circuit between these two drivers, which I'm sure we'll see some of just now. But it was just epic, wasn't it?
It certainly was. This was not the one that got Maszkowski, the lead and ultimately the win in the class. Sebastian did manage to hold on, but it was the first chapter of a trilogy. And, it was the roles reversed this time around as we come through Les Combes. You got the inside line there for Maszkowski, and it was defended there by Sergi Sebastian. And Maszkowski had to live to fight one more day. So that was indeed chapter number 2. But then here is the battle. I believe this is the Porsche, right? This is Thomas Holland. I'm not too sure who we're on board with exactly here. Oh, this is Seiko, wasn't it? Seiko trying to make a move around the outside. It didn't quite work out. But as we have got the highlights running in the background, this is where we're about to see Maszkowski actually take the lead for the overall race for the AMs. But we're talking about the pros this time around and the overall winner of our race. It's nice to see you here once again, Chris. But yeah, Chris Warner, how you feeling, mate?
Honestly, I don't think that could have gone much better. The car honestly felt on rails that race. It's probably the best car I've driven. Well, not just car combo, setup, everything came together perfectly that race, it felt like. It's honestly the most comfortable I felt in a car for a long, long time. But yeah, just super happy to start the second part of the season off well. I mean, we haven't had the race winning pace, it could be argued, for the first part of the season. So it's kind of been nice to set it off going well. But at the same time, we've just been there when needed, sort of thing, and picked up pieces where others couldn't. But today, we just had ultimate pace and lucky to, make it work.
Yeah, it was great to watch, and obviously for the Team Apex one, both of you seem to have it nailed. I mean, this was probably the first time. I know, you guys have been right on the pace, but Brabham Esports have possibly had that edge in terms of one lap performance. But this time, you guys were both just able to run away with it, and Brabham had no answer. But obviously now, look at the championship. Another 1-2 for you guys, another double victory in both classes. Surely you feel like you've got nearly 2 hands on the trophy.
Well, I wouldn't ever say that. I think. Of course, it's looking promising, but we won't know until we finish the last lap in the last race. So yeah, it's just gonna be going into every race, treating it as its own, but at the same time, in the back of our heads, not trying too much. But yeah, it's looking promising currently.
Well, yeah, okay. So what result would you need to be confident that it's done and dusted? What result would you need in the next race?
I wouldn't say that at all. I'd more so just say I'd only know when I've crossed the line in the last race. I'm definitely I will say, yeah, it is nice seeing my name on top, of course, but at the end of the day, I honestly do feel you've only won it after the last race, because there could be so much that could go on, like you never know, you could get disqualified in the last race or something, for example, but like that's like really drastic. But yeah, I just feel like anything can happen until the last race.
No, fair enough, mate. No, congratulations. You really did a good job here. I just spoke to Steve, and as your teammates, it might be a good idea to interview you both at the same time. So we've also got Machkowski here, who I predicted to go out there and get a win, won the AM. So I technically take that as a victory for myself as well. But congratulations, Christoph. A really, really hard fought performance today. A little bit different to Chris. Obviously, Chris got into the lead and didn't really look back. You had to battle pretty much the whole race. How are you feeling after that grueler today?
Absolutely destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. And Chris can confirm this.
Yeah,
because...
he's got brand new pedals, bless him, and he's had his work cut out.
Like when you saw me missing the brake, that really, like, I just couldn't. And like last 30 minutes were absolutely disgusting. I was fighting myself basically. And I was fighting Sebastian also.
So was that just the weight of the pedal? Was it an upgrade in brakes in terms of stiffness, or was it something else? Was it getting used to it?
No, that was actually like the brake was pretty decent. The throttle is completely different. It's like at least 3 times more that I used to have. And well, workout.
That's good though. I mean, you'll definitely gain some strength from it. So and come away with a great result. I mean, I want also to hear a little bit about that battle you had with Sergei Sebastian, because I have to say he did a brilliant job defending from you. It was superb to see you two side by side. Obviously, you took advantage of his mistake, but just talk us through the battle from your perspective.
That was hard, but I think that was pretty fair. To be honest, we were basically side by side fighting, touching each other. Basically not leaving any space, which I'm good with that. Well, I mean, like, when I saw, because like on the first stint, I was catching him, but my tires were basically pancaked by the Vidvert, I think, because of that spin. And so on the second stint, I had much better tires and overall package over him. So I was catching him, but I think he used a completely different setup to what I was actually expecting, because Mercs should use relatively high downforce setup, so they are just sitting back on a straight, but he wasn't sitting back on a straight. It was, even for Aston Martin, it was pretty hard thing to do. To catch him, I needed like at least 3/10 out of the last source to actually catch him. It was still pretty close, so I was just like waiting for the mistake of him. I knew it's gonna happen because it was just like, just from the driving style, I saw that thing will happen eventually.
Fair play. Well, last question to both of you then. What's the plans for celebrations tonight? Nothing technical, just want to know what the plans are. That's what the fans want to hear.
I think Greco is probably going to be trying to take care of his leg. For me, I have no idea. No clue whatsoever. No.
Well,
yeah,
like, Jardy is like, go, let's do Nordschleife LFM. Look,
oh
no,
yeah,
it's not that many corners. No, it's enough of the curves to not do it.
Get on the beers. That'd be fine. That'll sort your leg out.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But congratulations then. Oh, sorry, Chris.
Only just over to 8. Well, I'm 18, so yeah, all good.
You're perfectly legal to do this.
Yeah, legal. Totally fine. Well practiced.
Fair play. Well, congratulations, lads. We'll see you in the next round, and yeah, hopefully you can build on the impressive performance you've had so far.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
See ya.
Well, there we have it then, ladies and gentlecars. It is done and dusted here from Spa. Next time out, I won't be here. It will be Ewan and John. They'll be heading to Snetterton for 2 one-hour races, which is actually next week. It is back-to-back now. So we've got Snetterton next week on March the 9th, and then we've got March the 16th, which will be the finale. John, any final thoughts about today?
Yeah, just well done to all the drivers for putting on such a good show. I think I can speak for both of us. It was thoroughly entertaining to watch. There was some great stuff, great performances, of course, by Apex One, World of Racing, and I'm just looking forward to the action again next week. It's been a good season. It's very quickly coming to an end. It's moved super fast, but it's been thoroughly enjoyable. So thanks all for watching, and we're looking forward to seeing you all at Snetterton.
Yeah, perfect. Well, it's been a pleasure working with you, John. I'm sure we'll work together very soon indeed. Thanks to everyone who's watched at home as well. Thank you to all the stewards. Thank you to all of the organisers in the background. And of course, as much stick as I give him, thank you to Steve, who is in our ears and doing all of the camera work and the production stuff. So yeah, a massive shout out to everyone behind the scenes. But yeah, done and dusted. We are finished with Spa. We head to Snetterton next time round. That was the British GT Esports Cup 2024 Spa round. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Past all of them as well. What a move to the 48. Oh, look at this. And onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from the number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.